Hello, hello. Come on.
Few minutes late, but we are here. Thanks for your patience and welcome to a special meeting of the County Commissioners. It's actually a special work session. And the difference between a work session and a meeting is we're not taking any votes today. We are exchanging information. We are discussing ideas and collecting information so that we can make things happen that need to happen. My name is Lance Waring. I'm the chairman of the board. These are my two fellow commissioners, Commissioner Brown.
Dan Brown.
Commissioner Gleason.
Galena
And
Gleason. Hi,
let's
everybody.
continue around the room. This is our county manager.
Hello, Mike Cordania.
And
Maura Boylan, county attorney.
Jared Biggs, deputy county manager.
Hi, Janet Cass, Director of Parks and Open Space. Herman Warfield, Chief Deputy for the board.
and that is the county staff that is here with us today. Would it be okay if we did the same thing for everyone in the crowd, just so that we make sure we've got names and faces and know who's who? After, do you want to go front?
Axel Cook,
Axel
Lisa
Cook.
Mason,
Thank you.
Paul Wood,
Jeannie Stewart, Placerville.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Chelsea Gardner, Tyler Fire.
Hi, Chelsea.
Gloria Mueller, Placerville.
Thanks, Gloria.
Scott
Hi, Bill. Go ahead, Scott.
Sheriff Placerville. Don Lundberg, Third Street, Placerville.
Excellent. Don's here.
Elijah Prince, our high school student.
Hi, Elijah.
John Prince, Placerville.
Great. And Harley Ladybrook Hitching is with us right in the front. Welcome. I'm sure we'll get a few more folks as the workday ends, and that's fine. But we do have a 4 o'clock start, and we do have some things on the agenda. I'm joining this Zoom meeting as well, so that if anybody is wanting to join and raise their hand and talk, I'll be able to see them and call on them. So give me just a minute while I push the right button to enter the passcode. And then we will get right down to business. I'm almost there. It's one more stroke of the keys here. And I apologize for the delay. We were meeting up in Telluride and trying to do several other items of business there and then drive down, and you know the drill. It takes longer than you think. But we're in it. And the first item of business is, let me just run quickly through what we are going to talk about on the agenda. There'll be time for additional thoughts and ideas that we don't have written down, but this will just give us a sense of what we are going to talk about and where we're headed. We'll have an update with the CDOT folks to talk about what they are working on in the neighborhood. We'll have an update with our Road and Bridge Department. We'll have questions for Parks and Open Space with Janet Kask. And we'll have an update at 5:30 with the Telluride Fire District regarding some potential expansion plans down here in Placerville. In between now and then, the commissioners and staff have some more specific updates, and after and during, we'll have opportunity, depending on how much time everybody needs, for public comment for items that aren't being covered by any of those topics. So don't worry, you will get your chance. It's a question of whether it is soon or maybe a little later, but I want to hold close to that 5:30 start for the fire district, because that is something that is going to affect the entire Placerville community in particular, and I want to be certain that everybody that cares and have got the time is honored with that 5:30 start. Does that make sense for a rough agenda? Any questions there? Okay, super. With that opener, and again, I'm still pushing buttons. I'm sorry that this is not as smooth as I'd like to be. I try to get to meetings a little early, so I'm not doing this part, but now I am ready to open the email that has the document, that has the updates. Here we go. I'm in.
With this whole,
Oh, you've got it on paper.
Yeah.
So much better. All right,
Yeah, go with the Galenas, and then we can share.
All
this
right,
one.
thank you.
Okay.
I'm looking to see some folks from CDOT, and I do see Tony is with us and Jennifer is with us. Would you all care to open our meeting with a CDOT update? Tony and Jennifer, we'll ask you to unmute.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
Glad you're here. Do you have items that you'd like to open with as far as report, or do you want to start with questions, or how do you want to begin?
I can give you guys a quick update on what we have in the plans for the next couple of years for construction, and then open it up to questions. And Jen's here. Jen is our traffic and safety engineer, and she'll probably be able to answer most of the questions that come from the community. But as far as CDOT construction projects that are currently slated for your neck of the woods, we will be doing a multimodal improvement project that's focused in the communities of Rico, Norwood, Placerville, and Sawpit. And the scope changes between each community depending on the needs, but it's got sidewalk improvements, curb, gutter, ADA ramps, things like that. The money is very specific to multimodal improvements, which are kind of alternative modes of transportation or trying to connect to transit facilities. So they're working on the design for Placerville. Part of that is the discussion with the community about relinquishing some right-of-way at the frontage road. And so hopefully you guys are aware of that, and our right-of-way group is working with Placerville to handle that disposal of right-of-way or relinquishment of right-of-way to the community. In 2027, we will be doing a rockfall mitigation project on Norwood Hill. I believe it's 20, looks like, yeah. We're gonna advertise in the fall and it will begin in the spring. And there'll be some road closures. So hopefully people are aware that there'll be road closures on that hill. There'll be a signal at the top and the bottom, and we'll have one lane of traffic, but there will be some times when they're knocking rocks down on the road that we'll have to permanently close it for about 20 minutes at a time. And then we'll be doing some bridge maintenance on that bridge at the bottom of Norwood Hill. And then another bridge that's over closer to Natarita. We are going to be.
Could I
We are
interrupt?
going.
I'm a little clear on the schedule of the rockfall mitigation on Norwood Hill. We were under the impression it was next summer, but I think I heard you say it might be a little different.
Yeah. It doesn't actually say on my update here, but it probably is next summer. Yeah. We usually give the notice to proceed in the spring, and then they have to mobilize their crews and then get set up. So it'll probably be closer to June, July, but we'll let you know when we get a schedule from the contractor that's selected to do the project.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We will be doing a closure on Red Mountain. We are going to be repairing Bear Creek Tunnel and then replacing a wall. It's at Ruby Walls, if you guys know where that is. And so there will be some closures, night closures. I think Jen might be a little more familiar with exactly what the schedule for those closures are, but it's in July. And it'll be a couple weeks of night closures so that they can get that work done as quickly as possible. But we are trying to let people know as much as we can that there will be some closures on Red Mountain next summer. And then the fall of 2027, we're going to advertise a project for delivery in 2028 that is widening on US 550 north of Ridgeway in a really dangerous section of road that's had a couple of fatalities over the last couple of years. Near Billy Creek, where we built the wildlife underpass, we will be building shoulders and installing guardrail to prevent the run off the road accidents that have been a trend in that area lately. Jen's group did a safety assessment, and we have good indication that the plans that were putting together right now will address the majority of the accidents that are happening in that area and hopefully solve some of the problems that we're seeing. So that's what we have planned for the next year or so of construction and the traffic impacts that'll be associated with those. Our PIO, Public Information Officer, will be sending out updates to the communities as these projects get closer to actual construction. So be on the lookout for those.
I have a question about the schedule timing for the Norwood Hill Bridge. When is that slated to start?
It is actually scheduled to start pretty close to the same time as the Rockfall job. But they're going to try to arrange it so that those two projects are not in conflict with each other. I think a lot of the work on that particular structure is going to be from the bottom, so it won't impact traffic too much. But again, we haven't advertised it, so we haven't selected a contractor yet. And so we don't have an exact schedule for when they want to begin construction.
Isn't there a guardrail project also happening on Norwood?
2029.
That's
from the
2029,
Yeah.
okay.
They got a grant to add guardrails, additional guardrail, and make some guardrail replacements on Norwood Hill.
Okay, so I was just wondering if that was coordinated, but that's years away.
Correct.
I also have a question about the design for the multimodal project. The last time we were all here in this room, some of the public asked if there would be any public input on that. And I just had reviewed my notes that said that we might be able to work through Janet's office on that. Is there a place for public input in that design, Tony?
I think so. Jen's group is the one who's physically designing it, so maybe she can help us answer that question.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. We are in the middle of kind of getting the scope together, and we can definitely, I can reach out to my project engineers to see what feedback they got. I know they've met with some locals, like elected officials possibly, to talk about scope, but we can look at public input as well, because yeah, we definitely need to make sure that we're addressing all your multimodal needs with this project.
Jen, I'm not sure which public officials you would have met with in that Placerville is unincorporated and doesn't have elected officials, but maybe you found some folks that were deeply rooted in the community and you have been working with them, and that's great. We do have an email contact list that might be useful for your office in order to arrange meetings with the general public. If that's useful, let me know and we'll get that sent to you.
That would be great, actually. Could you send that to me?
Yes, send it to both of us and we'll make sure we get something set up.
And
Excellent.
I'm gonna ask my project manager who they coordinated with specifically, because I was not involved, so.
Oh, sorry, Jen, this is Janet Cass, Parks and Open Space. So, just to confirm, David Keaton, he was in town last summer, and Ryan Rigetti, who is here, our road and bridge superintendent, Ryan and I, and gentleman John Huebner from our planning department, we met David on site in Saw Pit and then in Placerville, and there were members of the community, at least members who were notified. And in Saw Pit, you know, and in Placerville, we discussed a number of designs. So it'd be interesting just to see an update with what you guys got going on or what you're planning as far as what we discussed and how it may or may not be incorporated into your overall plans or your scope of work. So if you could share what you've got, that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that we'll wrap back around on what kind of scope they came up with, and we'll tweak it.
Okay, thank you.
So Janet, will you make sure that the public gets to
Yes.
look at that?
Yes, yeah, and again, just to share, because yes, so they, you know, certain communities don't have elected officials, so to speak. I mean, Mike Kimball is there as the mayor, Susie St. Ange, who is involved with County Open Space Commission, and then also the town of Suffolk, BRB, and then in Placerville, I think it was just Ryan, myself, and John Huebner. But again, these are just some meetings that they've had going on for a couple of days that we just made ourselves available.
Like the question is though,
I will make everybody
aware that that
aware
meeting's
of- share the plans, and I will let you know when there is a comment time frame for community
Perfect.
input.
All that message get disseminated.
Well, I hopefully, Jen and Tony will share those plans with me, and then Simon and I have an email list, for everybody who is in attendance tonight, with Placerville Community, and I think they have a sign-in sheet as well. So we will be sure to share those, details.
How about on the Facebook page for the county? That seems to be everybody's preferred way to get information out
Oh, we can
nowadays.
certainly do that, and we can post things to the website, but I'll also share it through my email, this way you'll have my personal contact information.
Okay.
And then if you have specific comments, you know, you can share those with me directly.
Could you just give an update of what you're talking about? What's the project? What's the goal of the project? I haven't meetings.
Well, again, Jen and Tony can share what they actually ultimately have planned, but what we discussed in Sawpit, because, you know, the speed limit has always been an issue. So slowing people down where we can, where it makes sense, a potential thinning of the roadway, planter boxes, flower boxes. They actually were talking about a pedestrian crossing in Sawpit. And then in Placerville here, we were talking about curb cuts, whether or not to close anything off, sidewalks to get people from one end of the Placerville proper here to the post office, and then just better delineation of the parking area with curbs, and sort of dressing it up, sprucing it up, but also adding a safety factor to that.
Is that county or state?
Well, this is CDOT. And when we met with them last summer, they were still looking to acquire funding for these projects. So the fact that it's on their schedule is a good sign that they acquired the funding and they're moving forward.
And when would the work get done, do you think, Tony and Jen? That 2027?
It is, I'm looking at our projected program right now, and yeah, I think it's gonna get done in 2027. Yeah, oh, August 27. So depending on the contractor, they could get started that fall or wait until the next spring for 2028.
For
And I
both,
can't
both
answer.
Saw Pit, sorry, just to clarify, for both the Saw Pit and Placerville.
It'll be one contract to do the 4 communities.
Okay.
So Rico, Sawpit, Placerville, and Norwood.
So are you saying the money doesn't get released till August 2028? Is that what you said?
No, the money is actually available right now. It's in a tranche of funding that's available from 2027 to 2030, sorry. So we have access to it right now. It's a matter of addressing the right-of-way issues in Placerville, and then we have some other temporary easements that we need to acquire for some of the other locations, firming up the design plans, and then getting that advertised and awarded. And that schedule it'll take a little while for us to get that completed.
Tony, speaking of easements and access, I know that there's been discussions, and you touched on this, between Placerville Township or Placerville property and the CDOT right-of-way. And I understand that currently you're conducting a survey and trying to really pinpoint those parcels so that we can understand what, if any, exchanges we might want to make with the county and CDOT in order to improve access and streamline access and improve safety access to the highway. Is that true?
It is, yeah, absolutely. And we've identified a couple other parcels that we own that, we are not a land management agency. So we bought them at a certain point in the past to potentially facilitate a construction project that happened. We still own them, but they don't have a lot of, there's no necessary need for us to continue to own those. So we're going to try to relinquish those back to the count. Well, it's a little awkward in Placerville. I think it's a trust, correct? That we're going to release the property back to?
You're getting
Sure.
nods in the room.
Yeah.
We have a process underway. Jared, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, if I could, and thank you for that, Tony. I have been working with David Payton to get a survey of the Placerville, Front Street right of way, as well as the right of way, kind of where we sit right now. As part of this process, if we do the survey, they have committed to evaluate that survey and potentially transfer that right of way to the county. And so that is underway. I had a meeting with Dave Foley about that last week. And so he's supposed to be out here. If you see him around with survey instruments, that's kind of what he's working on.
And we call it a devolution, and typically there's some sort of partnership agreement between CDOT and the community that we're relinquishing a right of way to. And this is the partnership that we developed for this particular right of way transaction. And I think it'll work well for both groups.
And Tony, am I correct that once the survey is complete and everybody's corners are identified, then we start to discuss the access control plan on the highway and put our heads together with community members to try to figure out if there's any changes that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if we're officially doing an access control plan, which is a very legal document,
Mhm.
but I think we can look at the access, and Jen's group will do a safety assessment to determine that the access into and out of that specific location is what we want and is safe for your community.
Okay, sounds like the first step is to identify the parcels clearly, and then the next step is to have community meetings to discuss all those questions. And you've got the contacts list through Janet, so we'll be able to make that happen when the time is right.
Well, I'm unclear whether CDOT's going to connect with the community or if Janet is going to. I don't think they both
I think
should.
Janet is going to be doing the connection and CDOT's going to be attending the meeting.
Yeah,
I think it's probably
Okay.
has to be.
yeah. So you don't have, yeah.
All right. We've got some questions from the residents here, Tony. I'm gonna start calling names and hands if that's all right with you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, Ginny.
Hi, I'm just wondering specifically where those parcels of land are.
Ginny, I think that's a question that is gonna be really hard to answer
Okay.
without a map and without some pins. So
Okay.
the answer will come, but to try to do it here in
Okay.
words is gonna be super hard.
Aren't they in front of like M&M and?
Yes, it's the right of way right here along Front Street.
And if I may, it is focused along Front Street because that is where CDOT right of way exists. It's along the current highway alignment. And so that is what we're focusing on is just the Front Street corridor here and the 5 different accesses we have to Highway 145 within that section.
Yes, thank you.
Axel,
Except you closed off one of those accesses through the fire department. Right, so there's not 5. How many are there? There's
On the highway, from the highway, there's 5.
There's still 5 on
entrances from the highway.
But you are correct, it is not through.
you're both right.
As I understood it, you're gonna close off 1 or 2 of those entrances?
Don't know.
Don't know.
That plan is still waiting to be discussed. Scott.
And these also include pieces that would be part of that Down Valley Connector Trail up the highway that we talked about being in that 20-year plan. Does that also include those parcels along that area?
It has not. This is focused on Placerville, Front Street,
Just right here.
kind of between those 5 access points.
Right, but theoretically, the same process could happen up there, and could we ask for that if those, not to slow down the
Yeah.
Placerville business, but also while we're talking about that, can we go ahead and talk about those other ones, if those kind of.
Sure.
Well, I don't know that we're ready to do that yet. We don't even have a design concept, right?
Well, it's more just talking about which parcels are available, and so, because right now you're talking about identifying parcels. So we could theoretically at least start identifying the parcels that CDOT is willing to transfer.
I mean, I think we're gonna talk about the Down Valley Connector Trail in a minute. I would not suggest that we complicate this particular initiative by starting to talk about other rights of way up the valley.
Well, like I said, we can talk about Placerville, not slow that down, but simultaneously, if there are we're already having some of those discussions, and this is already part of it, we can get ahead on some of those discussions, it seems like.
Why don't we wait to talk about the Down Valley Connector Trail when we get there, if that's okay? Is that, I mean, I don't think that this group is prepared right now, the staff, to start those conversations with
No,
CDOT.
I'm just saying, while CDOT's.
I heard you, but we talk to CDOT all the time, so it's not like if we don't cover it during this conversation, it won't get covered. It just feels like we're kind of mixing apples and oranges to me, so.
Let's just stop real quick, where you're talking about the Down Valley Connector Trail, which would exist within CDOT right of way. That's up the other end. The CDOT right of way we're talking about right now is solely specific to this area on the Front Street corridor. So it doesn't extend up to where the trail, actually, the potential trail line that we've been talking about.
No, I understand, but I'm saying the same principle applies to that, will apply to that area.
Would they be relinquishing the right of way for a trail? Yeah,
Maybe-
it's a totally different, yeah. Anyway.
I think what you're hearing, Scott, is that right now, at least, we're really focused on just the non-trail part of CDOT's communication. I think there will be a moment for a connector trail update coming up with Janet, and we can maybe dig into next steps and what would make sense. But for right now, let's stay with CDOT, focusing on what they have done recently and what they plan to do right in the Saw Pit and Placerville neighborhood as far as roadways and multimodal improvements, and then get to the trail as a separate topic. Axel.
Is any smart parking included in this plan to help ridership?
That is a great question, and SMART has been working on a plan for new stops. I don't know if they have identified or been in contact with CDOT. Perhaps Jen or Tony have been in conversation with representatives from SMART, question mark?
We have, separately, there's a, CDOT is confined to different pools of money for different activities. And we have a very specific pool of money for transit-related services. So our transit group is working on improving stops at Placerville. And they coordinated with SMART, and I believe the plan for Bustang and SMART is to consolidate into one bus stop near where it currently is situated. And that bus stop will just be enhanced with some better lighting, but dark sky compliant, and some signage and some parking areas. But we can get that design. I don't think they're quite ready for the public to see the design yet. But once we have a acceptable design that we can give out to the public, we'll send that out as well. But they have been coordinating with David Averill with SMART.
Thank you. Good question. So appreciate that. Galena.
I have a question about the speed study that was coming through the Placerville thoroughfare on 145 that was put on pause, and there was, at our last meeting, we talked about an informal study. Hoping you can give us an update on where that stands.
I can talk about that. So we do have some, they call them stalkers, that can get informal speed data. But I actually noticed too that you guys have a radar feedback sign that I could probably get my team to grab some speed data from as well. So a short answer is we're in the midst of trying to get data. We are limited on those stalker signs, and they're out and mobilized somewhere else. But I think the speed management study, if you're going to go through a proper one, and if you talk to David Payton about it, I recall a conversation that we had, and I might have just said, wait until these multimodal improvements are completed, because then we can look at those impacts on how we actually impact drivers and driving behavior to see if we can lower the speed limits through the town. And that's probably your biggest bang for your buck with this design. But we can do our unofficial speed study pretty quickly here and give you guys an idea of how fast people are going through with data.
I think that the issues or concerns about speeds are not only through the town, but through the whole canyon, both the one from, Telluride to Placerville. And then we also heard concerns last meeting about Placerville to Ridgeway, Placerville to Norwood. And yeah, so were you thinking just the just the towns of Sawpit and Norwood, I'm sorry, Placerville?
That was how the request came across, but we could definitely look at a corridor-wide speed management study. That would take some time, and I'm not sure. Again, I would almost skip over Placerville and do that after we do multimodal, but we could definitely look at the other sections in the corridor. And so that request would have to come from probably the county or a local official to CDOT, and I can send over the application material and we could probably parse it through. We might also want to meet offline on how we'd want to break up that study as instead of doing a whole, just to get the best data and analysis out of it. So
And are you speaking, Jen, of an informal speed study or a formal speed study?
formal. For the formal one, we could break it up into multiple sections, which I would highly recommend.
I think we had a long conversation about this at our last meeting, and the community was concerned that if we did a formal speed study, it might actually increase speeds. And so you had suggested, or I think it was Tony, that we could do, you could do an informal. I think that was what Commissioner Gleason was mentioning. But so the question is that still an option? And then what do you need from us to make that happen?
So informal, we don't need anything. We would want targeted locations because, like I said, we only have a couple of these stalkers. So if we were going for miles and miles on a corridor, this would take quite a bit of time to gather data. So I would just maybe start with highlighted areas of where you want to focus our informal study at, and we can start chipping away there. And we can even sit down and talk about a formal one that is outside the limits of any kind of town. Because if you're afraid that speed limits are going to go up, I usually can have an informal conversation with headquarters, and they can kind of do a drive-through with me, and I can say, how big is this risk? And then I can just kind of give you guys some feedback on whether we should move forward with a formal speed study. So we could talk about that offline.
Well, if we're able to get that risk assessment ahead of time, do we need the informal study, or should we just have that?
Let's do this. Let's agree that we'll take Jen up on her offer to talk offline about the kind of 2 or 3 different options we have for speed studies. And I think we've got a good enough handle from previous public comment about the real trouble spots, if you will. And if we do end up wanting to do spot checks, so to speak, we could work with Jen to put those trackers in place.
Okay. Is that something you could work on, Mike, since you're kind of our CDOT guy? Sure. That would be great.
See a hand up in the back there. I can't quite say. It's Don. Go ahead, Don.
Hey, I just want to ask you if there's any consideration about turning lanes in this Placerville from either direction.
Question is there any current consideration for creating turning lanes from either direction into the town of Placerville? Into Placerville.
We're not considering anything right now. We just went through the update of our long-range transportation plan, and we had our stakeholders propose new projects. That was not a project that was proposed during that process. So it's not currently on the transportation planning region's prioritized list. But it is something that we can add to that list and put it in consideration for the funding that we have in the next go around of transportation planning.
Don, I think that was no, but we can still get it on the list. All right.
I have one more question.
One more. Go ahead, Don.
So in the old days, and I'm pretty sure it was Dean Silver that got it administrated, but there was a Jake Brake ordinance from Sawpit west through Placerville. And that signage has disappeared over the years. And I think the logic has disappeared too. But we have numerous trucks on the highways these days. And it's the logging trucks seem like they go all night long. And why can't we put that ordinance back in existence?
I can answer a little bit of that, Don, and I'll have the folks on the line from CDOT check me and make sure I speak clearly. Unfortunately, the requirement for a Jake Brake ordinance means you have to have a town with a municipal boundary. And the county have a really hard time with enforcement. If we were to try to put a county-wide jake break ban in place, we then are obligated to enforce, and we simply don't have the sheriff's capacity to do that. Unfortunately, even Sawpit doesn't have a law enforcement arm, and when trucks blow through at 4 a.m. The only thing that helps is to have a sign, and occasionally truckers read it, but we really don't have the actual teeth to enforce that, unfortunately.
How did they get it administrated before?
I don't know. That's before my time.
There was something in this memo about jake breaks,
Okay.
and
We can put jake breaks on the to be discussed offline. I feel like we want to keep with our friends at CDOT and keep posing new questions, but we could do a little research here. Axel.
So I don't know if this is open for all CDOT business or just Placerville improvement, Sawpit improvement, but
Go ahead.
the logging trucks are tearing up our roads from here to Montrose, and they're coming from every direction. Are they paying an extra tax to cover all the damage that they're creating on the highway? Or are they just getting free ride? They also cross the double yellow line on the daily. And I've had to pull off the road twice going to Norwood. And I'm really worried about my friends with kids in the car. So I don't know what CDOT can do about that.
Yeah, I think it's a local law enforcement issue more than a CDOT design issue. If it's not a permanent access point, we don't have a lot of control over it. Jen, do you have any thoughts?
I don't, and I've actually heard this issue recently, and I'm trying to search my email on ideas or what we came up with, but I agree, Tony. Enforcement, or if there's a specific area that this is happening. I thought it was related to a specific roadway, or am I not remembering this correctly? A roadway that accesses the highway.
I think what you're hearing in general, Jen, is that the log trucks are driving a little recklessly sometimes, and that Axel would like to find a way to tax them for the impact they have on the highways.
Well, they're beating the highway up, especially Highway 60 from here to Ridgeway.
Yeah.
That's gotten so bad. If you do the speed limit, you're getting airborne on that one section.
yeah.
And these logging trucks, they're on 550, 145 and 62. So
We are surrounded by forest thinning projects. Some of them are logging and some of them are just fire mitigation. But
right, but
you're
are
right,
they getting
we don't-
checked for weight? Are they doing extra damage, or is it just our imagination because they're
I
so
think it's
prolific?
just there's a lot of them, and there's also some trucks moving dirt from some large projects up the hill that none of us have much control over. Basically, we are in a very busy part of the world, and as you heard at the very beginning of the CDOT report, we're going to be seeing a lot of road work and action in the summer or two to come, and it's going to be tricky.
Okay, then the two other questions. Signage on 145 between the turnoff and the bridge. There used to be a speed sign right after Drummers where it went from 50 to 55, but they put a gas line in 3 years ago, and that sign hasn't put back up. Hasn't been put back up. And then the other thing I've requested for a couple of years now is some T signs to let people know Specie Bridge is coming up and people are pulling in and out of there, because coming from Norwood, it's blind. And if they're doing the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, something's gonna happen one of these days.
Jen, Tony, did you catch that one?
And that's County Road M44 that Mr.
T-junction, yeah.
Cook is referencing.
I think it's mile marker 78 or 88, something like that. So 88.
We're thinking it's mile marker 88, if that's helpful for you. And on either side of that T intersection, some signage would be much appreciated.
So intersection warning signs, possibly static signs there is what I'm hearing. And then speed limit sign is possibly missing.
Yeah, that's just opposite the Trummer property where they put a new gas line in or some kind of line going up to Horsefly.
Okay.
That's been missing for 3 years.
Thanks for letting us know. Oftentimes we have these signs disappear and we don't know that they disappear. But I will have my team check the strip map for that corridor and see if we've got any signage we have to update.
And did somebody steal the welcome to Colorado sign on Highway 90? Yeah.
That
They did.
sign has been ordered and
Yeah.
it will be.
Everybody in this room just smiled.
Yeah, can I speak to that? Did you follow up, Julie, on the,
I did, and I emailed you this afternoon.
Oh, I missed that. Jennifer, is that something you're in charge of or Julie Constance?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on those signs. I work with maintenance and my maintenance team, sign team, to replace any signs like that.
Well, while we have you here, the neighbors who've been, or the Norwood resident that I've been in touch with about that sign was super sad to see it down, and I'll be glad to tell him it's been reordered. He's been in touch with someone from Montrose County, and their concern is that that sign is often stolen and it might need a more secure attachment than you've used in the past.
And Julie
Yeah.
told me that her maintenance team is looking at security measures to make
Okay.
sure it's not removed.
It's always been the prettiest one in Colorado.
Yeah, so it sounds like Julie knows that it needs something, some more security, so maybe now if you know too, that'll be addressed before you rehang it.
We're
Yeah.
just pretty far from down Valley Corridor, but I'm glad to know that we all want to beef up the sign.
Yeah.
I want to get to Galena and then Bill Blake.
Okay, thanks. Just on the sign front, this reminds me of a request that recently came up in a Uniweep Tabawash Scenic Byway meeting that I was attending, and there was a request for a cyclist share the road sign somewhere along the 145 corridor between the Placerville turnoff and the Norwood Hill. Really, what I can't really disseminate where the best place would be, but there was a request for some share the road cycling signage on that section of highway, heading westbound.
Right, see Julie making a note. Bill Blake.
Hi,
Hi.
well, this is a little, well, it's not really. A couple of years ago, I had people living in my building up here that were taking the bus on a regular basis. And I noticed they had to stand out there in snowstorms, etc. So I did call, Dave, is that the guy that's smart? And I said, why don't we just get some shelter so people can get out of the weather? And he said they've been working on it, and but they were having a huge problem with CDOT because most of the places where they could put these structures were, on the highway right away. And they couldn't get the go-ahead to do it, even though these structures can be forklifted in and just set on the ground and they can be moved very easily. So anyhow, that's my comment, and I don't know if there's been any movement on that or not, but I think it's a very sad statement that the bus service has been working real good down here as far as I can tell. But, people still have to stand out in the weather all the time.
Well, Bill,
I think the only structure down here is right here in Placerville.
Bill, I've got some good news. I just got a text from David Averill just seconds ago saying that he's listening into our meeting and that he is in contact with CDOT and continues to try to work on that project.
Yes.
Yeah. Government grinds slow, but it's still grinding. So thank you for bringing that up, and I'm glad to know that David's tuning in tonight. David Lamb.
David Lamb, 246 Juniper Village Drive here at Old Applebach property. At the fall meeting, we had brought to the attention of CDOT in a request for better signage calming the traffic on winding turns just west of Juniper Village Drive, and also possibly a signage indicating there is a blind entrance there. We were told it would go to the traffic engineers for review, and I was wondering if there was any update on that.
Thank you, David. Were you able to hear that, Jennifer or Tony? Was David close enough to the microphone that you were able to catch that question about signage for the intersection near Juniper Village?
I could, yeah, and I don't have an update on that, but I can look into that. Do you guys have a milepost that I could use? I work
for that, David Lamb. Juniper Village. Does anybody have that in their head? Ryan, how good are you? Tell you what, Jen, we will get you that mileage, and you'll be able to then respond.
Okay.
Do that on the way home.
You know what? There's your memo that we received. It said that CDOT's response to that request is we will measure site distances or distance at this intersection. Currently, it appears as though vegetation has grown into the sight lines, possibly causing a reduction in site distance. So someone is working on this at CDOT.
Or said they were.
Yeah.
All right,
And
we will tickle you with a mile marker for that intersection, and you guys can get back to us with a sign program or a vegetation management program or some comment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the room for our CDOT reps? Don't see any hands up, so commissioners, do you have any other questions?
I would like to know how everybody feels the speed, the radar signs are working. Have you noticed a difference in the speed limits people are driving through here?
Only in Sawpit.
Well, there's one here.
Some, but not here.
You haven't.
Okay.
Gotta come through the STM.
Everybody wants to get home to Montrose after a long day at work. They're just flying through here,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
I think they built some, but
Hold on, goodness.
it's not where we have to be.
I will say, I'm driving more slowly.
Slow on the highway, slow everybody down.
I mean, really, through Sawpit, it must be unlivable for people wanting to try and go to the store to cross the road there, because 45 is too fast going through a town.
Matt Steen.
Have you guys thought about, raised speed bumps? A couple of them entering and exiting Placerville? I mean, if there's no room for a pull out, you know, people are still gonna drive fast, but you're gonna have to slow down for a physical bump. A couple bumps.
I bet Tony or Jen has a response about speed bumps in the state highway. Tony or Jen?
Generally try to avoid speed bumps. We always look at transverse rumbles, and then you're looking at noise. And that sometimes slows people down. The best way to really slow somebody down is a road diet. I don't know if you guys have driven downtown Durango ever with their new medians. We have 10-foot lanes, and it's real scary to go through here any faster than 25. So I think with this multimodal improvement opportunity, we might be able to make some small improvements that might help this issue. That's my hope.
That actually goes to, I think, Ann's observation that in Sawpit in particular, where it does feel narrower, you do tend to slow down. And if we can create here in Placerville the feeling of a little more narrow, we may get more response from traffic. So Matt, I think what I'm going to propose is the same thing that Jen said, which is let's see if we can do some multimodal improvements with the money we have, see if that nets us any gain. Acknowledge that this is going to be a forever problem, and speed bumps are kind of the last resort. Mike.
Mile marker 82.5.
Thank you. Jen, for your notes, Juniper Village is at mile marker 88.5. 82, excuse me, I misspoke, 82.5. Axel.
Does it take an act of Congress to lower the speed limit at the horses to 35?
Yes.
It does?
Basically. I can walk you through that offline.
Okay.
It's a process that we have discussed as a group before. It's a process that I've discussed personally with CDOT a couple times, so I'm happy to share what I know. Yeah. All right. Looking around the room, making sure there's no more CDOT specific comments, knowing that we have a lot more items to cover and keeping an eye on the time. I am going to thank our CDOT reps for making the time to join us. It's just before 5 o'clock, which is often quitting time. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate you being here, and we will stay close.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am looking at our notes for this meeting, and I am supposed to mention a thank you for the successful passage of measures 1A and 1B, which were the county ballot measures to override the state requirement to reduce or limit taxes and allow us to continue to collect the amount we'd all agreed on previously for mental health and for our early childhood. And so thanks voters that voted for that. That money is being carefully and well spent. And I think those are both programs that are really important for our community. I'm also suggested to speak about some of the road projects that have been completed this year. And Ryan may field some questions about this, but I will simply say that 57P, which is Fall Creek, 60M, which is Silver Pick Road, and 58P have all seen some significant work and upgrade in the last season. And there is more work and upgrade to come, and Ryan will be digging into that in his report here shortly. Mike, would you like to give a county manager's staff report?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So the county launched a new wildfire preparedness website. It's everything that you need to know, what from how to get your property assessed and mitigated, to how to sign up for reverse 911 alerts, to evacuation routes. There's a bunch of cards I placed on the back table. If you have not been on that website, please check it out, and please do make sure that you're signed up for the county alerts. So if there is a wildfire or Highway 145 closures for mudslides or things that have happened in recent years, please make sure you're signed up so that you can receive those alerts and prepare. I was very disappointed to follow up with Clear Networks and then also with SMPA to learn that the Down Valley Fiber project has been canceled. They've returned their $2.3 million BEAT grant that they had received from the state of Colorado. And I learned about this first through the grapevine. I confirmed this with Doug Seacat, the owner of Clear Networks. Their plan had been to provide fiber using power pole attachment agreements with SMPA. And SMPA ended up denying that application because they said the integrity of their poles in this area is too poor to allow them to add any additional weight to them. So I asked SMPA when they're planning on replacing those poles, and it is in their capital plan between the next 5 and 10 years. So I reached out to Region 10, who has a broadband initiative, and said, you know, our Down Valley residents are still really struggling. I myself am on Starlink, and even now, once the trees come back, or the leaves come back on the trees, I have 50-50 chance of having an internet signal. So I have a meeting next week with Region 10 to try and brainstorm what else we could do. We know that using CDOT rights of way and burying fiber is going to be extremely costly. The power pole attachment agreement was going to be, it has shown to be a far cheaper way to get fiber to locations. And I will hopefully have some Hail Mary of good news as it relates to bringing fiber down Valley the next time we meet. But sadly, that is not a rumor. It is true that we have no fiber coming to us in sight. I had followed up with Roger, the postmaster at the Telluride Post Office, to just hear if they are still, you know, in negotiations. I know Harley, you might speak to this. And he said he had some questions to him from the real estate office at the post office. This is concerning the continued Placerville post office. And he said that he would give me an update. I have not, that was 2 days ago. I have not received an update yet. But I believe their plan for now is to continue working with the new property owner and continue offering the post office at its existing location. I underscore the extreme need to keep a post office here, that moving it to Telluride or Norwood is really not an option for many of our Down Valley residents. And then we are, now that we have at least reliable internet here via Starlink, because not many obstructions here, there will be a ballot box for the November election brought back to Placerville. And I'm sure there will be more details and information coming to you via email about the timing of that. But one of the state requirements is that we have to have 24/7 surveillance on the ballot box with cameras. So with reliable internet, we can now bring that back and offer that. And just as a side note today, I don't know if the commissioners were aware, but our public health department received a grant they had applied for, no matching funds from the county, in the tune of $49,986 for Cole Cooper, our behavioral health projects lead, to offset his salary.
Wow.
So that's a great bit of news for that little piece. And that's all I have for right now.
Thanks, Mike. Let's go to Ryan Rigetti. Ryan, would you care to give a quick update on plans for the summer and road and bridge in general?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So so plans for this summer, we finished up the dust control in the area. We still have a couple of small sections that we're gonna be picking up, but we got all the major roads graded and got them all covered before they call the river. That was our big goal this year before we lost the water in the river. You guys will probably start seeing some containers. If you're up on Hastings Mesa, you're gonna see 2 containers up there and one up on Wilson. And so we placed those in 20,000 gallon, 21,000 gallon tanks that are gonna be filled with water, so they're gonna be used by the fire department in case of an emergency or in case there's a fire in this area. There's 3 here, and we've got 3 of them putting on West Tempe County. So you guys will see those. If you have any questions, feel free to call and ask about them.
Ryan, where's the third one on the east end? Hastings, Wilson, and
And up at Schmidt Ranch.
Schmidt. Okay, what mesa is that on?
Wilson Mesa.
So you said, so 2 on Wilson Mesa.
1 on Wilson, 2 on Hastings.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Hastings North.
Yeah.
So there's one by the True Grit, and there's one right there by the saddle, 56 feet. All right, so then we're gonna be so now we've got our dust control done. We've got some gravel projects. One of them is getting ready to wrap up over on 56 feet. Anybody heading up 56 feet, you guys have probably seen this dust new gravel. We applied dust control over the new gravel, or there was a little bit with the contractor that was left over, so we started going down 58 feet both directions, just a little ways. And that contract's about wrapped up for the year. Next year, we'll be continuing 58 feet all the way across with gravel. And then the year after that, we'll be going up 60X, Z60 and 59Z after the county, just to help get gravel out. We're also doing adding gravel on Leaf Creek this year. We're gonna be doing chip seal on X48 and then that short little piece on 56 feet. So you guys will, if anybody's traveling up there, we'll get the schedules out. You know, we're gonna be doing the asphalt work, but we have some patching stuff to do, trimming on those areas. Other than that, we'll be back to routine maintenance. We'll be doing another sweep here in the Placerville area. This had a year to kind of work some rocks back off. We'll be coming through and sweeping the rocks off again. Just get we're ready to go. So we got trimming, potholes, that kind of stuff. If there's something you guys see, feel free to give us a call at the office.
And I would just tag on there, as far as High Country passes, the town of Telluride for replacing a water line between the town of Telluride and the Tomboy. So over Imogene Pass will be a little bit delayed on its opening, but Ophir Pass is almost ready to be opened. I think we're expecting in just a matter of days. Tomorrow morning,
Wow.
even better. So Last Dollar is open, Ophir will be open tomorrow. And then as soon as the town's done with their construction, water line construction, we'll get up on Imogene and then Black Bear after that. And then sadly, Tom Hannes is no longer with the county. He was our East End supervisor. We have Alan Hatfield, who is our Norwood supervisor, is basing out of Deep Creek until we rehire that position. So if you had Tom's cell phone in there, please just go ahead and call the office, call Ryan, and we'll get you in touch if you have any needs that Alan and his crew need to address. We're working together. A lot of the Norwood crew and the East End crew have kind of been merged, and they're working on projects in both districts to try and fulfill the needs while we're rehiring for that position.
Mike, If I could, I just wanted to mention, it's always great to call Ryan, but you can also use Google the San Miguel County Road and Bridge Road Repair Request Form. You can enter that, you get a copy of that in your email, and it gets to the same exact place.
Right.
Just make sure you put either your phone number or your email address, so we can return. If you want to hear back. We get a lot of those, they're just, we can't return a call.
Thank you.
What I hear you saying, Ryan, is that it is easier for you to track through the portal where you typed the question or the concern as opposed to calling your cell and leaving a message.
Either one works, but if our office is, if it's closed, you can still go online and put it in. And then send us an email, and then we can forward that email to the district.
I know that sometimes there are really specific to the town of Placerville questions, whether it's potholes or paving or culverts or drainage. And if anybody has one of those really detailed questions, it might be easiest to pull Ryan aside after the meeting and really bend his ear, so to speak. But if anybody does have a road and bridge question, including a very precise question, Ryan is here right now, and this is a good chance to raise a hand and ask him or tell him what he needs to know. I don't see any hands up. Ryan, your roads are perfect. Incredible.
Yeah.
Bask in this moment, it won't last.
Hey, Ryan, at the risk of touching on a hot button issue that I haven't discussed with you, my apologies. So I went and got up to Woods Lake on Monday.
Yeah.
Or Sunday, and
For Beaver Park.
was that, yeah. So the 57P is looking awesome.
Yeah.
And driving really well up to there in that, and then it's okay to where the snowmobile operations normally were staged. I know that the last winter they were moved up further towards Beaver Park, and there are some significant ruts in that road. Does the Forest Service have a response, or?
We're meeting with the Forest Service tomorrow to discuss that specific thing.
Great.
Yeah, that, because of the winter that we had, the winter recreation operations up there caused significant damage to the road.
The Forest Service road or our road?
The Forest Service road to Woods Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a road that we have under Schedule A agreement with them. And so we have,
Which means we
some
maintain it,
agreements, yeah.
right?
You're just talking about the last stretch to Woods, not the
Correct.
crossover to Beaver?
The correct, this,
Okay.
it's across, yeah, where it's significantly damaged.
Yeah, there's some running there.
You are talking about the crossover to Beaver.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think the key section though is, that mile before the turnoff to Beaver Park.
Yeah.
So that's where the main traffic is heading up to Woods Lake.
It's, the intent for the winter permit is that it's all over the snow travel.
Mm-hmm.
So what occurred was over the snow travel, and the road systems up there were significantly damaged. So that's what we have to meet tomorrow to discuss with the US Forest Service.
Great. And Megan Eno, our district ranger, is gonna be at our July 3rd commissioner meeting if you wanna hear or speak with her. She'll be giving an update at that one.
June 3rd.
What did I say? July. Oh, man, June 3rd. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Any other questions for Ryan with Road and Bridge before we move to Janet? Yes, Chris.
We having a regular, mowing operation going on?
The weed mowing,
Uh-huh.
it's in the town of Placerville here. Okay. I'll talk to Alan and see. I know that our mower that we have, it doesn't do real well on some of the shoulders in here, so we have to do it by hand. And that's pretty time consuming. In the past, we've had to get guys down here to do that, but if we can, we'll see if we can make some passes.
Thank you.
Good question, Chris.
Brian,
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that your West End guys did a great job on N44 last fall.
Oh, okay.
They did a great job. They should get some, that was.
Yeah, we can,
Thank you, Axel.
I'll be sure to pass that on.
Ryan, bask in this moment. You're getting a compliment from M44 resident Axel Cock. That's a good thing. And a long time coming. Thanks for your patience there.
Yeah, thank you.
So, that's all.
I'm gonna say to Axel, that was a difficult time. You were continually speaking to us about why aren't we getting more, maintenance? This road is really bad. And that actually caused us to adjust our spending in the road and bridge department overall, and to put in an additional, was it 350,000 a year? So that we could hire a contractor to do 2 significant projects every year. It was a change in BOCC policy, and it had a lot to do with your input. So thank you for that. And also it really inspired us to, was it 1B or 1A?
1B.
1B, which is the one where we asked voters if we could lift the 5.25% revenue cap. So I know sometimes it feels as a resident, you're beating your head against the wall, but we are listening, and it really does impact how we run the county. So thank you, as Lance said, for your patience, and know that it actually impacted more than just M44, but the way we are spending county funds on road and bridge. Yeah.
Persistence pays.
Ginny. I just wanted to say, thank you for painting the lines.
Yeah.
In Fosterville. Not that people are listening or just paying attention, but, at least I'm glad that they're there. So people know that there's a road. So appreciate that.
And I also wanted to just revisit the work that your crew did up in the draw up there to create that drainage ditch to slow the water coming into the town during monsoon season, and that will be monitored. Once monsoon season hits, hopefully we have a good one this year because we have moisture, but you know, road and bridge will be monitoring that to make sure that it's doing its job, and if need be doing repairs to it so that the water is getting diverted in the proper place and not flooding. Flowing.
Yeah, and that's a great example of where if you guys see that it had more rain than maybe we could have imagined and we haven't checked on it yet, get on the portal and say, hey, that drain or surprise drive drainage, you know, needs attention. And that's the fastest way to get something looked at, because it's part of our summer plan, but we don't always know where the, you know, major rain showers are. So please continue to keep us posted if we miss it.
All right, it is 5:10. I'm keeping a close eye on the clock because I see Chief Bennett has joined us. And Chief, we're going to be ready for you at 5:30, but we are going to carry on with reports from county folks. And the next up is Jenna Kask.
Hey everyone, good evening. So just a couple of quick updates. So the Down Valley Connector Trail, I know we touched upon that just a little bit earlier. So I've spoken about this project before, and as most of you know, this was a trail project that was proposed to start at the Down Valley Park, proceed up along the 145 corridor to the Sawpit Mercantile, then just beyond to M59. So it's about 3.4 miles. And the one thing, the way it was left the last time we met was that after making a presentation, we had the feasibility study, which is on the county website. And after making a presentation to the county commissioners, we decided that I was gonna seek grant funding to pursue engineering and design for segments 1 and 5. And those were the 2 bookend sections. So that was literally at the Down Valley Park, at the beginning segment, and then up by the Sawpit Mercantile. And I did pursue a few grants and some funding, including some CDOT multimodal option fund grants with which is how the initial feasibility study was funded. But the one thing I found out though is that in these latest grant cycles, most grants, or at least the organizations that are funding programs, they want shovel-ready projects. They're not funding engineering and design. They want projects that are ready to go. And so then I sort of shifted my thinking and shifted my gears. And so what I'm pursuing now is speaking with members of the community, the County Open Space Commission, county manager, is seeking funding for the 2 bridges that would be lined up in segment 5. There would be one bridge that would go from Mercantile just beyond its town of Sawpit. There's the old bridge abutments there from the historic bridge. That would cross over to the old utility road, continue down. Yes, we have that washout that way there, 1510 left. And then, it's about a mile down, and then you would cross back to the M59 trail. And this would at least provide access to Telluride in both directions. So I'm pursuing grant funding for the 2 bridges. I'm also looking at, and I've gotten some quotes on various bridges. I'm also looking at some used bridges, recycled bridges. Scott Upshur attended one of our recent county open space commission meetings. He had some great information and, would welcome knowledge with some details that he provided to us that, I'm now pursuing. So it doesn't mean, that the trail itself won't happen down the road, but it's an expensive trail, 3 miles of trail within the right of way, in that 145 corridor, depending on the width, depending on the surface type, adhering to ADA requirements, topographical challenges. It's an expensive trail. So my thought was that, in order to provide the most immediate community benefit, if I got 2 bridges and we have those installed, and that's not cheap either. But if we were able to install 2 bridges, that would provide the most immediate community benefit to at least utilize a good portion of what had been proposed, as far as segment 5 within the trail itself. So that is the update on the Down Valley Connector Trail. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions.
Can I just be even more clear? The sad thing is, and we hate coming here with bad news, but the granting environment right now is just not good. The
Yeah.
state budget is an absolute mess. Every 6 months, they're cutting $800 million, $1 billion, and it just isn't there. And I'm not as familiar with the federal granting system, but Janet has been beating her head against the wall, trying to find grants for the design and engineering, and it just isn't there now. And is that really the reality of it?
Oh, it is very much so.
Yeah.
Because, a few years ago when I got the funding for the feasibility study, it was all about, new projects, new thoughts, new ideas. They're beyond ideas. They just want shovel-ready projects. Are you good to go? Are you ready to go? Do you already have your plans in place? Because they want to see it happen.
And there isn't like backup money to sort of build the pipeline of design and engineering. It just isn't there right now. Is that right? So, yeah, it's very sad. I mean, when I first became commissioner, I was so excited. I used to live down Valley for probably a cumulative 18 years, and getting back and forth, even from my house that was like just a sort of off the lineup with Fall Creek Road, I would have to get my dog in the car. I mean, it's really not great. But unfortunately, it's just not a time in our nation or our state's history where we're funding their expensive projects like this.
That's fortunate for sure.
Which is why, Scott, I was kind of saying to put energy into working on the rights of way at this time, it just isn't probably best use of our staff time. And it's the sad reality. Janet has come here for a number of years saying, we're working on grants, but I think it's time to just admit that the money isn't there right now. So.
Well, in response to that, I appreciate that and I understand that, but it's also when we're talking about 20-year cycle with CDOT, hitting the sweet spot, we need to have our ducks in a row, and so we need to have some of that preliminary work done. And if we can piggyback it on times when we're talking to CDOT about the same issues, and we can work out some of those issues, so we have it in our pocket, so when these cycles hit, we're ready to go. And we're not starting the process when we should be finding shovel-ready projects, and that was my own point earlier, trying to piggyback while we're having these conversations.
I understand.
Well,
Keep the long game in mind, because that's why we keep missing the goals as we, scramble at the last minute.
If there's anyone who plays the long game, it's Janet Cass, let me tell you.
But Scott, you are heard, and
Yeah.
I agree with your fundamental point that it's great to set things up well in advance. So when it is time to pull the pin, we are ready.
well, and also Scott, to your point, with CDOT and Region 10, they have these actual 10-year cycles where they plan in increments of 10 years outbound. And, so I had actually, our Down Valley Connector Trail was actually, I think it was number 4. It was actually within one of their top projects to be funded. But the problem is they were now planning for 2026 to 2036. So, and even though we were in like the top 10 of projects to carry forward, they were carrying projects, but from previous 2015 to 2025 forward into the 2026, 2036. Those projects that didn't get done and didn't get funded, so we were then pushed back even further. So even though we were technically like a finalist, so to speak, we were just bumped down the line to these other projects that had been previous priorities that took precedence over us.
Yeah, totally, but just like anything, if you don't take the shot, you're not ready to take the shot, you certainly won't make it, so we
Oh, I
gotta
know.
be ready and that, things happen, but it shouldn't be on our end that we didn't have our stuff going.
Thank you. I agree.
Pursuing everything.
Janet, do you have other topics you'd like to cover?
Well then just, yeah, real quick, because, we have, discussed the area here, this is sort of like a crossover between me and Ryan, Park and Open Space and Road and Bridge. Yes, he has painted the lines, out on the road here on Front Street, which, I don't know if you saw it the other day, you would have needed an AED device. There were 18-wheelers in the middle, there were dump trucks, I mean, people just do not pay attention for, honor those lines. So I always had this dream of just putting in flower boxes and just, better delineation of traffic flow and just, really sectioning it off as far as where cars are supposed to be driving and that, yes, it is a roadway. And I just wanted to touch upon that because the one stumbling block of that has always been the CDOT right of way. Because you can't just put a planter box out there because it has to adhere to the safety standards with which CDOT has for roadways in general. It has to break away if a car were to hit it, and there are all these mitigating factors that come into play with how a flower box is actually designed. So the fact that CDOT is now talking about relinquishing some of the ROW, be it to Placerville Trust or the county, whomever, it does mean these flower boxes still wouldn't be safe, but there might be more leniency as far as actually getting it done or finally getting it done and bringing it through to fruition. So that's a positive note. And then one other project that I had spoken about previously was, so the Placerville, the historic cemetery, that's on Placerville Trust land, but County Parks and Open Space, and I give all credit to Rich Hamilton and his team. He and his crew are out there all the time, and just handling maintenance of the cemetery. We've always wanted to put some signage up there, and I have been working with a contractor, and Jean, I know you wanted to be involved in this with Sharon. And he's a local, so to speak, he's in URA, and he got bogged down with some other big projects, but I will keep the community apprised of that. My thought was that it would sort of emulate sort of like what Lone Tree Cemetery has, something simple where it just kind of is like an arch. It just says, Placerville Historic Cemetery. But so that is still out there and hoping to get that done sooner than later. I've just been waiting on.
What would the timing be on that? Cause we had the same update in October.
Well, the contractor was on it then, he has since been busy with other projects, but I told him, if he can't get his stuff together, then I'm just gonna issue an RFP and just put it out to bid and then just get other contractors. So. Waiting for him to respond.
Could we make a commitment that we would get it done this summer, or is that unrealistic?
Yeah, I just need to prepare the RFP and just send that out.
Is that something the other commissioners, I mean, we don't need to budget for that, right? You have funding for that? So you don't need commissioner direction or?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps at a bookend for this.
Well, yeah, no,
The
I
artist
was
you've been
actually
working
chatting
with
Mike
and-
about it this
yeah.
morning. Because I told him that I left a message for the contractor again, and if he didn't respond, today, tomorrow, I'm just gonna put together the RFP, release it. And hopefully get some responses.
Great. Thank you, Janet. Any questions for Janet? Yes, Don.
Janet, are you in charge of the trail system down the valley?
Well,
The trail
county
bus
trails.
off it, and the trail from Silver Pick up to the stage.
Whiskey Charlie, which trail are you talking about?
The trail's on 145.
Highway, M59 on River Trail, we are.
From
Yeah,
Top Pit to Silver
M59,
Pick,
yes,
from Silver
M59.
Pick to the state shop. Are you
59,
responsible
yes.
for that?
Excuse me?
Are you
Yeah.
responsible for that?
Yes, M59.
So is there any talk about improving that bike path, that single track?
That's,
Well,
wait, wait, wait. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No.
No, I was gonna say, so Rich Hamilton and his crew, they provide maintenance on that trail. Typically, we run through challenges all the time when, during monsoons, we have mudslides. A lot of times CDOT, I can say this, they're off the call, but they push a lot of mud over the edge. We get mudslides, constantly going back in there to clear it. We also have instances where if a car goes off the road, we then have to deal with tow trucks going in. They create a mess, tire tracks. So we're trying to always stay on top of the maintenance of it, but it does get rutted out. So it is a challenge.
Well, it's just a single track, and the weeds get cut a couple times a summer.
Right,
That's
we
about
could
it.
go in there with a brush.
My
hog.
biggest concern is, the people that migrate from the west end up to Fort Tiger. And if you have a dog in the car, the best spot to stop without any issues is the wide point right above stop. And there's no porta john. There's no signage there like you have at Silver Pit. And there's a, like for, hand,
Oh, a hand washing station?
hand washing and then, dog,
Waste station.
so we don't have any of that at Silver Pit or Soft Pit. Zero. And what I've noticed, I'm a user since I retired, so what I notice is that even people will poop on the single track and wipe their butt and leave it on the single track. And then several times, I'm sure Saco can vouch for this, anybody that's a user, people, dogs poop on that trail all the way up to Silver Pit.
Right.
And they just leave it. Because there's no signage, there's no concern, and there's no infrastructure there for anybody to use for any reason.
Well, one thing I can definitely look into that, and I certainly hear you, and, I agree with your points on that. I wonder with like a porta potty or something, actually setting it down off the road, because the last thing I want is for it to be visible from the highway, because then everyone's just gonna be stopping there.
Well, those are your issues.
No, I'm sharing the thoughts with.
Go to the bathroom, I don't care.
Yeah.
Don, are you talking about, the
The white spot,
trailhead?
right above Soft Pit.
Smokey the Bear.
Well, hang on a second.
Smoky
Wait,
Bear.
there's, because when you come out of Soffit, there's that big sort of round spot.
Smoky the Bear.
Okay, before you get to the slow vehicle traffic and
Right,
59.
okay.
Where are you thinking
So
it
there's probably
belongs?
5, maybe 6 pullouts there, if people park there, Usually, nobody uses it. Right?
Uses,
The trail.
yeah,
The use is from Silver Pit to the state shop and.
well, that's why we have the
That's where
porta
we
potty
see
and the
those.
But I'm
signage.
telling you,
Yeah,
there's issues
Mhm.
in the lower spot too.
Thank
Okay,
you.
That's heard, yeah.
We will see if we can figure out a way to get some dog
You know,
bags and some.
Soft Pit doesn't want you to use the bathroom.
right.
Cindy, you can't use her either. You gotta go down here or go to Apple Block.
Those are, yeah.
Those are great spots.
Yeah,
But people that are in a hurry going to Tiger, they only got time to pull off quick and go down and get it done and then.
Thank you.
Okay, point taken, thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate it. I'm keeping an eye on the time, and Jared Biggs, you either have 4 minutes or we can start the fire conversation and save your information for after they are done. What would you prefer?
I'm happy to cover the Down Valley Master Plan project. in
Okay.
4 minutes.
You got it.
I'm standing in for Kay Simons, and she's out on vacation today. But I wanted to let everyone know, because you've heard for years, I know all the years that I've been working for the county, and maybe a few more than that, about the Down Valley Master Plan update. And so we have a plan right now to issue that RFP in the October, November timeframe. And once we select a contractor for that, we will then be getting them geared up to actually have community meetings and start doing the work in 2027. And so I wanted to at least share that. That's the plan as we've discussed. I've had this discussion with Kay. I think we said it last October that we are going to have a fall into winter RFP, and that is what we are looking at this point in time. So I'm happy to share that, answer questions as need be, and due to the sake of time, I would ask you to please shoot me an email, give me a call, Kay as well, or use the planning email if you like. We can get back to you on all of those fronts. The only other couple things we have, we do have a couple Placerville residents on our planning commission, which is fantastic. Both Fletcher and Ian Bald are both on our planning commission now. And so I think one great thing about Placerville is you're well represented at our planning commission, looking at all the things that are coming across the planning desk and really giving a lot of thought to that. So I appreciate the participation we get from Placerville on all of these projects.
And can I just say, if anyone sees Fletcher, please thank him for stepping up. We actually recruited him at somebody's suggestion. And because we know this master plan update is coming up and we really wanted to have Placerville representation. So as Jared said, we have Fletcher and Ian Bald, and then we also have Hallie Simpson, who's a Mesa resident. So she's also in this district. So it's Fletcher's birthday.
Let's go to Fletcher's house after this meeting. We'll go sing to it.
You know, we continue to work right now. You may have read it in the newspaper or elsewhere on the housing code update, where we are trying to look through our code with a fine-tooth comb with a group of stakeholders to evaluate how we can make building housing easier within our code. That has been quite an effort. I want to commend all the folks who've been participating in that effort. We have had 5 meetings. We've got another one that we're planning.
Steering committee. I don't think they necessarily.
We have a steering committee. We call it the Strategic Stakeholder Roundtable, or SSR for short. And that's a group of folks that range from realtors, bankers, developers, community members who are working to try and evaluate our code and say, are there incentives? Are there impediments? How can we change the code in positive ways to affect more housing development, particularly affordable housing development? And so those conversations have been really valuable. And we will be working throughout the summer on this project to develop land use code amendments to potentially implement as a result. And so.
And I'll also weigh in just with the makeup of that group. There are representatives from throughout the county sitting on that round table, and also people that have are directly working in community housing in that field. And we were really mindful in appointing folks that came from different walks of life and even have expressed certain concerns at commissioner and planning commission meetings to make sure that those voices were represented.
Yeah, and I want to say that's another instance, sorry, Gloria, where that was very much that SSR, Strategic Stakeholder Roundtables, was developed in response to a lot of public input during the East End Master Plan and other planning matters. The public didn't feel they had as direct a voice in that. And so for, I don't know, the first or maybe second time we developed that working group. And it actually hasn't been easy, right, Lance? You're leading it. There's been some, debates, but I think it's really healthy to get it at the beginning of the process rather than at the final approval date. So another just comment about how public input really is making a difference.
And the Down Valley Master Plan will have a configuration of residents representing Down Valley to weigh in and give direct input on that process as well.
As well as direct citizen input. So you don't have to get on this subcommittee in order to have a voice. You can also just come to the meetings where there will be opportunity for discussion and input and improving the plan. Chloe, I'll be right there. I wanted to add one more tagline on this strategic stakeholders roundtable, which is, as the chair, the desire is to check our land use code, which is complicated and hard, and see if we can come up with any reasonable and thoughtful and wise solutions to building more housing, with the equally important sidebar or equally important goal of also preserving community character. And so it's not just let's figure out a way to build a bunch of units. It's also with the focus of preserving community, preserving environment, thinking about traffic, acknowledging water. We're not just diving into this with our blinders on. And those conversations, as you can imagine, are hard as heck. And we, as Galina said, we're, I think, really smart in that we got some of the really angry people inside the tent at the meetings. And it's led to some spicy conversations. It's tested me as a moderator and a mediator and a chairman, but the upshot in a couple months, hopefully, will be 3 or 4 good suggestions that we can all agree on that aren't cuckoo crazy and might generate some housing. I don't think we have to belabor this anymore, but I will call on Gloria, and then we're going to go to the fire folks.
I have 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about that whole property beyond, between, the turnoff that goes after Sawhill to Telluride. When you're talking about that one big parcel of land down.
The SSR group is not talking about any specific parcel. We are talking about the land use code, which is applicable to the entire county. We're focusing on the east end, and we're looking for opportunity to create incentive for affordable housing while maintaining all the important values I just mentioned.
Down by the river where they allow camping down towards Telluride, that's not.
We're not talking about any specific parcels, like I said. Okay.
Well, my second question is anyone representing the watershed, the San Miguel watershed on your?
We have Amy Levick, who has been involved in that group. We have me, who was president of that for several years. So yes, there are folks that have
the river is being considered.
Exactly, and that's what I was trying so poorly to say, that we are also trying to consider environment and community and all the other important aspects of living here, and not just housing at all costs.
Right.
Okay, great. With that, we're a couple minutes behind schedule, but not too bad. Oh,
We're talking about shooting range.
nope, we're not going to, because there's been no change. Unfortunately, the shooting range remains a conundrum that none of us have come up with a magic bullet, so to speak. Did you catch that? Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not as funny as I think I am.
Yes, you are.
All right, with that, let us go to our friends at the fire districts who are here in force. There's a lot of blue and radios behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you come in?
We'll come up to the front, maybe. there's
Super,
one of us.
okay, as many as you need. I see Chief Bennett from the Telluride Fire District. I see Chief Bachroth from the Norwood Fire District. I know that we've got a presentation coming up, and it may take a moment to sync computers so that we can get that on the screen. Give us just a moment for tech organization here.
Yeah.
No, I think it's you.
Shared next.
Okay, you're already ready. Great.
So I think honestly, it's just if we go full screen,
Okay.
then you might be able to see a little bit better.
Arlen is working on that as we speak. Make sure
We can
that,
do kind of introductions too.
yeah, please get a moment to introduce yourselves and which district you represent, and then we'll dive into the reason and plan and the why.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chelsea Gardner. I'm the
Folks, can I ask for your attention, please? This is Chelsea Gardner. Thank you.
I'm Chelsea Gardner. I'm the training battalion chief for all of your entire fire department for Telluride Fire Protection District. So I represent districts 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Chief John Bennett, Telluride Fire Protection District. And Deputy Chief John Karowski, know most people in here.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Pritchard. I am with SEH. We are supporting the Fire Protection District in their redevelopment of the fire station. And I'm helping specifically with their entitlement, getting their permits to the county. So I'm just here to help with any of those more specific nitty-gritty questions if you have them. I'm gonna sit for now, take some notes, but yeah, if you need me, I.
And John's here with the Norwood Fire District.
Good evening, everybody. John Bachroth, Norwood Fire Chief.
Okay. Do you want some more chairs or are you comfortable standing?
And sit.
Okay.
So we have a couple projects that we're here to present to you guys as like a first introduction. It's not the last conversation. We want to provide plenty of opportunities for you to ask questions. But what we're working on is remodeling Station 3 here in Placerville. To up our emergency response, also provide some more space for our growing department and the amount of apparatus that we have and we're planning to have. In addition, a whole nother new facility to a training facility. And so kind of two separate projects, but we want to introduce them both because they're going to both be going about at the same time. And so we actually, this is new as of today, just a 3D rendering of Station 3. And I'll show you some sketch plans that are also a draft. So realize like none of this is set in stone. These are still concepts, sketches, ideas. And we're really open to public comment and feedback.
This is Placerville.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so, and I'll show you up here.
This views from the highway, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the sketch plan. I'm gonna see if I can somewhat zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. The nice thing is, and feel free, if you can't see this, you can follow along on your phone. This is our website. So this is all public information. You can just go to telluride.com and you can access all these sketches. You can dissect them, call me with problems because I only want to build this once. We want to identify this stuff early. And so really what we're looking at doing is actually having a new CDOT right away for emergency services only to access that front side of the station. We would close off the west side of Front Street and we would be able to respond from calls just by using that entrance off of 145 and exit. The only time that we would actually use Front Street is when basically the dark gray buildings are the only new buildings that are going to be built. The lighter building, the white building, that's our current Station 3. So we're just going to remodel that building. The dark gray are new structures that you'll see go up. And so the training facility is a smaller dark gray. I wish it was bigger, but we're going to work with what we got. Telluride land is definitely worth a lot, as we all know. And so we're just happy to kind of be presenting this project because we currently don't have a training facility. When I train your firefighters, we're throwing ladders against buildings, we've broken windows. I've seen people basically get sprayed down with hose streams in downtown Telluride or wherever we're training, and it's honestly just not the best for your firefighters and your community. You guys deserve better. And so a training facility will allow us to train whenever we want. It also does have live fire capabilities. We wouldn't be doing live fire operations all the time. Like, realize when we do our skills, we're pulling hose, we're throwing ladders, we're using hose streams. Most of the time that's not under live fire conditions, but it is super important to condition your firefighters to live fire operations. It's like, I tell people, like, imagine going and getting your hair cut from someone who never gets to cut hair. You probably don't want to get your hair cut from them. Like, you want your firefighters going into live fires and being well practiced. And so really, this live fire structure gives us the ability to meet our industry standards, for us to be more professional, for us to be safer. And really, one of the biggest benefits for you all is ISO requirements. It would drop our ISO ratings substantially. And so ISO is basically the insurance services offices that rate our fire department. There's 5 categories that we get rated on. Training is one of them. So it's the one area that I can really make grounds on and affecting our score in a positive way. A training facility that's 2 stories on 2 acres of land, we'll get to that, because this is definitely not 2 acres, and supports multi-company operations is what we need in order to get those 35 points for ISO score.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, like the point portion or?
The whole thing, like if you have a
Yeah.
two-story facility on 2 acres.
Yeah, and it's a 3-story
Okay.
facility on 2 acres of land.
Okay.
Is what we're looking for. It has to do live fire. And so the facility that we're proposing, and I'll show you a picture of basically the facility. Sorry.
So you're saying you don't have 2 acres here to do that?
No, it's not, but it accomplishes a majority of those check marks. Particularly the training components, we're close to the 3-story, you said 3-story.
Correct.
We're at 2.5 in this design. So we're making some accommodations to accomplish
a good portion of the tasks we're shooting for. I mean,
But you're either fully compliant or not compliant.
Well,
right?
so the
we're
way,
close compliant.
well, the way we get around that is we have an MOU with the airport. And so we do driver operator training and pumping training at the airport. And so that's our biggest slate of concrete for all of my guys to go do cone courses, learn how to pump the apparatus that would be showing up to your house for fires. So if we have those MOUs, that ups our acreage. So the acreage is checked with that MOU. The only thing we don't have is a structure.
And then how would it actually impact our ratings? You said something about 35 points?
Yeah, so ISO is super, super confusing.
Sure.
FSRS is basically the schedule on how they score all of things for ISO. When we talk about the training component, a training facility gets you 35 points. And then each member of our fire department, volunteers included, have to get 18 hours of training per year in a live fire situation. That's really hard for volunteers when we have to go elsewhere for that training. We don't need
bring
those
a burn box in for that? Thought you guys brought a burn box in for that.
We do, but we only get it every other year.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sorry.
That's okay, I wanted to
Yeah.
let you finish your sentence, and
Yeah.
then I wanted to back up just for a second. So
Yeah.
finish your comment about the bird box, and then let me jump in just a moment.
I love it. We only get that every other year. And some years it's just not available, whether it's broken. And we were on 3-year research cycles. Every firefighter needs to have live fire at least every year within those research cycles. So we don't meet minimum recertification requirements based on the live fire that we're currently getting.
So if we build a facility that's A1, can we charge other municipalities to come train here?
We
Will
could. Yeah.
We could do that. What we philosophically, I'm a proponent of pay forward. Because we utilize our neighbors on a mutual aid system. It behooves us to train them the way we train. So when they come help us, we're on the same grade, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's Rico, whether it's Norwood, whether it's Ridgeway, New Glenn, it makes sense for us to train in that also. Part of the beauty of this tower is we've received this through the state Department of Fire Prevention and Control, a federal grant called the AFG grant, $575,000 to do this. So this is very important in the concept of the big picture of this Station 3 reconfiguration. And there are other components at the end of this that I'll kind of close this whole thing out and why this is so important. Not only for this neighborhood, but the fire district as a whole, and then the region as a whole. So we're stakeholders in a big picture, just in our fire district and what we do as taxpayers, but also in a bigger picture.
Thank you. I've realized I did a really bad job as chair of setting this portion of the meeting up, and I wanted to just interject for a second and say that you were exactly right when you said this is an introduction to a new concept. It is a proposal. This is not guaranteed. And there are a couple different steps that would have to happen. Many different steps, actually. John's laughing because he knows the steps. One of them is county approval. And in order to gain that approval, I believe that the county would want to have a really clear sense of what Placerville residents thought about this proposal. So what we are doing tonight is hearing for the very first time this possibility. And we are then going to create a survey linked to the website so that you can go in and read it really carefully. And what I'm hoping will happen out of this meeting from everybody present is, one, you'll form perhaps a preliminary opinion, but two, you'll go out and tell your neighbors that aren't here tonight, hey man, fire station's got this big plan and there's a link where you can contribute your opinion and tell the folks at the county whether or not you think it's the right place, the right size, the right idea. And we will be able to take that information if and when we get to a decision point. So this is an intro to a potential plan. We, the county, are in an information gathering stage, and we plan to do a much more formal effort once we've heard this initial verbal proposal. Any questions on just what we're doing here tonight? Yes, Jim.
I'm just wondering, when I go talk with my neighbors in that link that you were just talking about, are these pictures plans going to be?
It's all on the website right now. Yeah,
Okay.
like I'm just scrolling through our website at the moment, so it's all
About your website or the county? website?
Telluride Fire.
Okay.
Telluride Fire proposal that we wanted to bring to this county meeting, because we knew we'd have a big crowd of
Right.
folks, and we also have engaged folks who would do the out in the community networking. Scott, and then I'm gonna hand the chair back to Chandler, but I'm gonna ask Chelsea, excuse me.
It's okay.
I'm gonna ask everybody to raise their hand, as Scott and Ginny have done, so that we don't start doing kind of random popcorn, because it's gonna put Chelsea off of her stride. Scott?
I mean, I assume you guys know what you need and want to give you all the support that you can get to have the strongest firefighters we can have. The only question I have is why Placerville, why not Norwood, why not Telluride, why not any other place? What is significant about this placement here that helps you and couldn't be done other places? What are the pros and cons?
A couple of things, Placerville, for us, and I started to kind of pitch that earlier. We participated at a high level on our wildfire side of things, both locally and regionally, state and federally. So kind of the initial step was the remodel to accommodate additional staffing. Right now we have folks and we've also increased our local response. In other words, we cover this area now 24/7, 365. So when 911 goes, they're out the door, right? Additionally, during wildfire season, we have increased our capacity. We have the ability to send 2 engines. Last summer, they spent doing initial attack out of the Montrose interagency, of which supported our district, Norwood district, and mostly in the Montrose zone. So where do we house those folks? So to increase bed space or bunk space, right now we've got folks that sleep in 2 offices, and where do we put people? So this seemed like the logical space to start. Next space intentionally would be Mountain Village and then the town of Telluride to bring up our housing of our 911 folks to a modern condition. So this is just step 1 of a bigger plan. Okay, in addition to support our wildfire division. Secondly, looking at opportunities based on our grant. Where do we put a training facility? And as Chelsea identified, land in our fire district is tight. This made sense based on what we have and what we've presented to this point as a great option. With the hope that our Placerville area residents would support that training cadre or concept. And keep our firefighters within our district for that 911 response while they train, rather than sending them a couple of hours out and having to either support that with backfill, additional costs, or, wait 2 hours when we have a big event.
And then,
If I may, Chief, this is also a great central location. It's only 6 miles out of my district. It brings Mountain Village, Telluride stations down to here, so nobody really will live this. Even Ridgeway, it's not that far from Ridgeway, so this really is the prime location.
and we've looked at other locations as well, and have tried to get some movement on those locations, because this isn't a lot of space. Ideally, I have a location that we can drive 360 degrees around. And so, but this is what we have, and we're not trying to ask for more. We're trying to really utilize the space that we have. You can say that, yeah.
Quick question. I believe I heard you say at the beginning of your presentation, Chelsea, that this is a 2-part question. And that one part is 10 additional beds for firefighters. And the other part is this training facility. And I think that we should be clear that when we send out this survey, we're going to be talking about 6 beds. Thank you. We will be talking about 2 separate projects that are certainly united in focus, but that we're going to be discussing and considering separate.
Yeah.
Everybody. Do you guys have money to pay for this?
We do, yeah, we're not asking for any more money.
Bond issue?
No.
No, we're,
Because, you know, it's, I mean, I look at my tax bill every year. Look, I don't expect you guys to do anything, but I don't even know if there's a volunteer fire department anymore. Or if it is, it's minimal. And everybody's on salary now, which is maybe what we needed to get to, but. Yeah, you know, it's, I think, you know, I pay as much as I do to the school district, you guys every year.
Bill, I think you got the answer up front, which was yes, they have money for it. They do not need to ask for more. Correct.
Well, I hope you put a good design in because this other one's a piece of shit. That, you know, part of the crew that built the original fire out there, back in the eighties, and, I couldn't believe, the tin can, you know.
it's still the same.
So it looks like
I'm not gonna lie.
that year it's gonna be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea, let me, jump in and just piggyback under chief, on some of the why. And let's cover that a little bit more. When I joined the fire department down here in 1997, we were running 25 to 30 calls a year. Right now, last year we ran 152 calls. In the district, we ran, back in 97, about 500 calls, 450 to 500 calls. Right now, we're around 2,000.
Wow.
So it's
How
increased.
much of that is fire and how much of it is EMT types?
67% is EMS, but our firefighters, you know, we don't have separation, so our firefighters are all EMT firefighters or paramedic firefighters, and they all go to the calls together. So the district itself, between the, you know, the 4 stations that we've got right now, has grown significantly in our call volume. Along with that, back in the days with Mike Kimball and Donnie and the Alvins and all that stuff, you know, we, you know, the calls that we had weren't as significant as they are. You know, they seem to be more and more car accidents, significant car accidents. You guys see the traffic every day here, and that really affects us. So Placerville, and this is one reason why Chief focused on Station 3 remodeling first. The amount of calls is increasing constantly for us down in here. So we've had to put the full-time staff in here, the burden on the volunteers, which we still have volunteers responding out of Station 3. But the burden on them to be gone for, you know, hours and hours a day has been really tough on them. So we've had to staff the station, as we've done with Station 1, Station 2, Mount Phillip and Telluride. We've had to staff the station. And as Chief said, right now they're sleeping in 2 offices that Gary Whitfield built, you know, back in, Donnie, when did we do that? 97?
90-something.
Yeah, 97. And so they're sleeping, you know, in 2 offices right now, and we don't have the bed space. The call volume continues to go up and we don't have the bed
So
space.
part of this is bunks and stuff is for people to sleep when they're on call or.
Yeah, and Chelsea will get to that in her presentation.
Okay.
The training facility is, as she said, is a needed facility for the region. And we'll utilize it for the region. Bridgeway will come up, Norwood will utilize it, Mountain Village and Telluride. All part of our districts will come down. Law enforcement can use it too. But the first thing that Chief Bennett and I were looking at originally 5 years ago was, where are we gonna put firefighters to sleep? And sleeping, you know, the guys right now in the offices isn't working very well. So we're trying to make accommodations. 2 years ago, we bought a trailer. We put a trailer outside and had the guys sleeping in a trailer. As we continue to grow.
Let's do this. Instead of continuing questions, let's
Yeah.
let Chelsea finish your presentation. Some of those questions may be answered. And then when Chelsea's done, we'll be able to ask the questions that didn't get answered.
Great.
Perfect.
I'll try and make this quick, so. Just before I forget, like I said, this is the beginning of the conversation, and so I would like to invite you all on June 10th to a station tour of the current facilities and then a time to question and answer. We'll also provide any updates on training facilities, station remodel, and that will be here at Station 3. As well as in July, on July 29th at 5:30 p.m. At the Placerville station, we actually have the trailer coming from DFPC for a live fire training. And so we just want to do a demo, because I think when people think of live fire training, you're thinking of this like burning building that's really gross, like fire breathing dragon. And it'll kind of really paint the picture of why these evolutions are so important for us to be able to do our job well. And it'll also kind of show you, how do Class B materials versus how do Class A materials work? We're hoping to build a facility that does Class A and Class B, because they both have their benefits. And so Class A is like your normal combustibles, your wood products. This creates really good fire behavior, so firefighters get conditioned to dangerous conditions. I want people to be able to look at a building and say, I'm not going in because it's about to explode, or we're about to experience backdraft. Like, that's very important for your firefighters to see and understand. Versus Class B is more of your natural gas and your propane type of props. They're nice because we can turn it on and turn it off at any moment. Really easy to regulate the temperature and keep people safe and less carcinogenic. And so we want to have facilities that want people to know good fire behavior, but I also want to have the reps that we can get with Class B materials. And also I don't want to expose our people to just burning products as well as the community all the time. And so Class B is definitely overall a safer thing, but for us, ideally we have both. So this is just on that front page. This is the training facility as far as like what we have sketched now. It's not set in stone. On that first picture that you saw that someone identified as from the highway, that's what you would see from the highway with the training facility behind it. And so we currently train there every year with the live fire trailer. I do trainings every other week here at Station 3. And I've asked numerous times, like, how many complaints do I get? And I haven't heard of a complaint yet, and we're cutting up cars, I have plenty of pictures on the website of all the things that we get to do, which is fun for us. But we do live fire now. And so for me, I don't want it to change your community. I don't want you to fear smoke, fear, wildland fires. All of those things get handled in a professional training building. People get in trouble when they try and come up with trainings without a structure. And that's when you find fire departments who lit other structures on fire and things like that. So we need a training facility so we can get our reps in and be better first responders. And again, we have like a big list of all the benefits of these training facilities, as well as a station remodel on one flyer. That real world training, safer fire grounds for our people, and ultimately try and reduce your guys' property taxes, or at least prevent them from going up as much if we can do our part as your fire department. Like, we appreciate your support, especially with all the tax initiatives and no levies. Like, we want to do our best to respect that as much as possible. Yeah.
You said property taxes, I don't.
Insurance.
Sorry, property insurance, excuse me. Yeah, sorry, not touching your property taxes, but your property insurance.
Or yours.
Thank you. Thanks, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's just your homeowner's insurance. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, great.
I guess it depends on.
Let's go hands raised, please, so that we don't just shout out and confuse everybody. Yes, Jamie.
So is there, what's the word, sorry. In other districts that have facilities upgraded and gotten the 35 points, have the people in the community, their insurance said, oh, you have this facility nearby, we're gonna lower your insurance, or, I mean, is there proof that indeed insurance companies do change their tune, or not? Because, yeah.
Let me take that. So there's a yes and no to this. So insurance companies, a lot of them do subscribe. So ISO is a subscription, and it's a risk subscription. So they look at your community and they look at your fire department or district, and they go, okay, so this is a number list of how your fire district performs, from dispatch to a number of categories, as Chief Gardner reflected, right? And so depending on what insurance company you might go with, they look at that and go, okay, your fire district rates from 1 to 10. Okay, our goal is to get to as close to a 1 as we can, with some limiting factors. For example, if you're within 5 road miles, you're within what we rate as. If you're without that, then there's a different factor that comes into mind. And that's not within that 1 to 10. Okay. So, and so it depends on what insurance company you're with. the more things that we can do, including a training facility, more insurance companies look at that and go, oh, you've got a professionally trained fire district with professionally trained firefighters. That's a definite plus. Then they look at fire, a domestic fire system, fire hydrants. Then they look at this. Then they look at what your building products are of your home. Then they look at, and now they're looking at what with the new state laws, what your WUI condition is. So there continues to be these things, and we're trying to add another thing that goes, check that box. We're in a positive frame of mind here. So the ISO just happens to be a really strong buzzword or subscription in the realm of insurance, and a majority of insurance companies utilize that, but not all.
Excellent, Scott. Is there gonna be water storage facility on site?
We haven't gotten to that point. I think we need to get through community support and application and all of that, and then through design, that may be a possibility. I think some of the issues that we perhaps will struggle with is groundwater and where we put that, if that were an option. If I had my choice, absolutely.
Scott.
Just separating the two, like Nancy was saying, between the beds and the training facility. And I think you answered my question certainly about why the beds are important to be centralized and even have some training here. The concern I have is as the training facility grows and it becomes more attractive to other organizations, it sounds to me like there will be more trainings going on, which is great. The only concern I have again is with those Class A's. Again, a lot of things get kind of trapped in the valley here. Diesel certainly does, exhaust and things like that. And is there a, other than obviously convenience to the beds, the reason the training facility has to be at this here as opposed to say out in Norwood where there might be some more open, areas. And I know you mentioned that you have the land here, so you want to use the land here, and I totally understand that, but the only concern is with increased training here, I certainly don't want to be.
The grant is attached to the fire district, which means the grant stays within the district boundary. Otherwise, we'll have to relinquish and lose the grant.
And that's one portion also to answer your question too, like when we're talking about Class A combustibles, it's literally a 2x3 campfire that I light in a room. And so that's how much like fire and smoke it takes to get the heat to come up, to create that smoke in that closed compartment. I'm not doing pallets and a ton of material because I'll get way too hot, especially in a small facility like this. And so the amount of combustibles, like, won't change from, if you look at our photo gallery, us lighting those doll houses on fire that we did a month ago, for a month straight down here. And so I want to express, if we have Class A fires, it's going to be a rare thing because it also is highly regulated. And, we do have around 70 people in our department, combination between volunteer and full-time seasonals, like it's about 30 firefighters volunteer to about 40-ish full-timers. I have to have a safety officer and I see a backup line, 2 engines, 2 ambulances. And so to run that Class A fire or even Class B, it's a show. Like it takes me about a month to prepare for these events. And right now it takes me a month to prepare to go out of district. Those guys don't get to pump their trucks when they're out there. Our aerial apparatus has never been on a live fire training facility that I'm aware of. And that's, and that's something to just think about of like, do you want, if we have a structure go up, is that how you want your firefighters trained? Because we can't take that aerial apparatus to Norwood, to Montrose, and take that resource out of your home when we're supposed to be here protecting you.
Jesse, it sounds like you had an open invitation on the 29th of July or June.
We had 2 days. Yeah.
Both dates, I think we're gonna offer a demonstration of this live fire and folks will be able to get an actual eyes on of what you mean when you talk about doll houses and 2x3
so forth. To me, that would be a really important demonstration, and I would want to make sure I got to one of those to see it myself.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that live demonstration is in July. June is just come see the current facilities and station, so.
Scott?
Just to clarify, Chief Bennett, the grant, you're saying that the grant is in District 3, but could the other district in Norwood apply for that grant just for the?
The state may allow that, but currently the state is assigned to our district. And so cross lines, then I don't know what would happen.
Right, I've actually looked into that, but I'm gonna be interfering with their grant. So, because I'd love to have a training facility out in Norwood, so if I may, Chelsea brings up a very good point, it takes a lot to put on a training. I'm the fire chief, the training officer, I pretty much do everything in Norwood, and I just completed firefighter 1 academy. Matter of fact, one of the Telluride members was in our academy. We did all our training in the bay, we did it in our bay room. We went down to Montrose twice, so we had to go way out of district, bring an engine and everybody out of district into Montrose to use their burn tower. I don't have stairs, I can't simulate a basement flood fire, I can't simulate a second story fire or rescues, things like that. It takes a lot of work to prepare for that. I don't have the personnel to do that in Norwood. So even if we combined, they'd be spending all their time in Norwood setting up all the trainings. And you'd be taking a lot of your firefighters out of district. And it's really not feasible and it's not safe.
In other locations too, like we just didn't have the infrastructure, like the bathrooms, places for people to decon is really important for these trainings. Like for me to get carcinogens off of me as fast as possible, clean my bunkers. Like it's an event. Like live fire training is most departments, when they have these facilities, you look at their training records and they do it like 2 times a year for everyone to get those hours. And you don't do it during the busy times, and so it's, for us, it takes a lot. And I don't foresee us doing live fire every single day. I see us throwing ladders, pulling hose, doing skills without the live fire conditions, and then we'll do live fire, like when everyone's here and we're ready to do that. So it takes.
The short answer, Scott, to your question, and the simple answer is Telluride Fire District got the grant. We can't get the building and then move it into Norwood Fire District. It's a separate entity, a separate taxing entity, separate everything. So we got the grant, we had the opportunity to put the tower in. And as Chief Bennett said, it's highly possible if, if we said, no, we don't want it, and we don't get it, and nothing happens in the region at all.
That grant actually just.
You have had your hand up multiple times.
Thank you. Scott actually just touched on one of my questions, and that AFG grant, that $575,000, that's directly funneled towards the training facility, correct? Correct. Yeah. I don't.
Basically awarded to DFPC, then was directly awarded to us.
And that grant deadline is August of 2027. And so I have to have a structure on the ground done in August 2027.
And remember, this is a controlled environment, so you're not gonna be going out there with smoke. So when I do barns, it's a different story. I take old barns, I take donated homes that people want demolished, and I have to go through the EPA, I've got to get special permits to do this, and we put some nasty carcinogens into the air. This is a much cleaner, much controlled fire.
Let's do this.
Follow-up is the emissions from the controlled fire is controlled, because I agree, there's a lot of smoke that comes through this valley.
The wood we burn and stuff like this is pallet. So it's as clean as what you do in firewood.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to use anything that has any glues, adhesives, like it has to be clean, plastic, combustibles, wood, paper products.
Chelsea, do you have more presentation, more formal presentation, or are we at the end of the slideshow and into the Q&A?
No, we haven't seen that. You gotta show it on the floor plan.
Yeah, well, the floor plan's up there, as far as the station remodel goes. Ultimately, I just wanted to show you guys also on here, it's just a photo gallery. I'm working on getting videos uploaded just so you can see more examples of what live fire looks like just in a video setting, but they're making me upload it to YouTube, and that's a thing for me, so. So I'll try and get those out, but our Instagram also does have a lot of like our trainings in person, as well. So as far as the actual plans and design too, so you saw the 3D renderings that are on the website. Internet's gonna take some time. But if you want, you can scroll through these photos and that's one way to get through. But ultimately, like if you click on these links below, you're gonna actually be able to open up a document and be able to move through that document a little bit cleaner. And so, did you want to click on plans or? Okay.
Just wanted to present that floor plan,
Yeah. So again,
the site plan.
this is the training facility, the additional apparatus bay that would be added on to the current existing Station 3 as well. As we go down, we can look at floor plans. And I'm just gonna go to like the good stuff.
Yeah, I see that one's helpful.
Yeah.
To show where things are.
Just to respect everyone's time.
So as most of you know, the current structure, you've got the shed. And Gary Whitfield put that shed in a few years ago, and we squeezed two engines in there right now. We've ordered more engines to support the call volume. And so that is also in addition to the firefighters that we are, trying to find beds for right now. We have more engines coming in that'll be housed here too. And so, and that'll increase our response capabilities, decrease our response time, and give us more opportunity to protect the community.
I see a 9 engines.
Axel, I've got a hand up from Roy.
You
Yeah.
have a gas structure on site, where do you get your gas from?
We have fuel tanks, we've had fuel tanks there
So
for
that's
30 years.
expanded on for this, okay.
There's a diesel tank and a regular tank, for about 200 gallons each, and nothing will change on that.
Axel.
Am I seeing 9 engines?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Now recognize that this is also specific support to our wildfire division, so you've got type 1 engines, type 3 engines, type 6 engines, so there's a mixed bag plus our water tenders. So rural firefighting, type 1, so structure fire plus wildfire plus EMS support. So it's really a mixed bag. Full support.
That's great. Yeah, and one of the vehicles there is the ambulance, and then has
Yeah.
vehicle on the back, or the one that's sideways across, that's the UTV that we have for fighting wildland fires and doing rescues. So we've tried to fit what we currently have and anticipate.
It's 10 pounds still in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah, and anticipate what's coming in. We have another engine showing up in September, and then another engine showing up probably January, February next year.
I don't see any hands up right now. Chelsea, do you have any more slides you'd like to share?
No, I appreciate it. I think this is incredibly, I'm supportive, for sure. Do you have a projected timeline of when you're thinking things will? Yeah.
I'd like to say 2027, but we'll see how the flow goes.
I can speak slightly, Scott. I think it depends, if we do have to proceed with the redevelopment of the station and the live fire separately. But like Chelsea mentioned, for them to be able to fulfill their grant obligations, they do need that live fire training tower on the property in next summer, essentially. And so we're required, like was mentioned earlier, to go to planning commission and the board of county commissioners for approval for these applications. So we are on a relatively tight timeline at this point. We've already had preliminary conversations with the planning department. I have, we did the pre-application meeting, they've given us submittal requirements, but it's really important that before we submit, we don't want to rush this, that we're getting your feedback, that you all are comfortable and feel like you've been involved in this process. And that's why they're here today, I'm here today. We want to make this project both timely, but also with the proper engagement. We don't want you to feel like this is happening to you. We want it to feel like it's happening for you.
Scott.
I just wanted, sorry to harping on this question, I just want to be really, make sure I'm hearing you right, that if you have this training facility and it is this controlled environment, that you won't have to go through these like more uncontrolled kind of trainings that we, I'm not saying been doing uncontrolled trainings, but have to use materials that are less controlled, right? Is that's what I'm hearing?
It gives me the opportunity to like train people in proper conditions. And it is like an uncontrolled, controlled environment is what we talk about. Like I can't eliminate all the risks when we throw a ladder, pulling hose and doing rescues and things like that, but it is controlled. And ultimately, like what I do get to do fire behavior in, it's either when that DFPC trailer comes here and I cycle like our entire department through in 4 days, and we are doing 3 sessions a day, trying to get everyone, you know, basically 3 hours of live fire is all they get every other year. And so did that answer your question kind of?
Really close, but like say for instance, you're trying, say for instance, you're trying to train for like a car fire.
Yes.
And are you burning an actual car and with all those carcinogens in it, and are you doing it with this facility if you have this training facility?
No, they actually make props for that. Have we done that before? Yes, we have.
That was back in the nineties.
Yeah.
In the nineties, we would do that, you know, in the eighties, it was done a little bit more, and in the seventies, I heard good stories about the seventies in the county. But,
You know, we used to, as John Chief Cockroft would say, we would use acquired structures, not the greatest opportunity, right?
But you have this facility.
These change those opportunities and they make car props and so we can then, having this, we can add to those opportunities as monies prevail and things of that nature, right? What we're talking about developing or building is a step one, and being able to then add to what you're referring to, with props that are far more safe and controlled. As an example, go to the airport and look at what the FTC most recently did. They've got a fuselage airplane that is a training prop that's like a CJ3. And so we've been training with our partners at KTEX. That is a Class B prop. And so we can start to build on those training thoughts without going to a car. But our other risk is like, how do we train our folks to fight EV car fire? We can't just go down the road and go, hey, look at that car, let's get that and punch the Tesla bank and use that as the training prop, right? So we've got to use that as like use film or go to other facilities that they have that training capacity somewhere else. Because we can't just line up Teslas on the front street and go punch the battery and let's fight fire.
Right? Great YouTube video.
It's a great experience in person, because I've done it. There's a gentleman in the back with his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Scott, I got it. You know, as the board of training officer here, I think there are down 4 different types of training that are available to us right now. That are available to me, that are available to Chelsea due to her struggles. You have imagination training. Well, imagine something's on fire. We put a cone out there where you attack it up, right? Worst training here. We have this burn trailer that shows up here, and it's literally like a trailer that you would see on an 18-wheeler, right? It's not that great. We call it quite a phone booth. It doesn't really simulate what we would actually be doing. It gets our guys moving. Piques their interest. It checks a box as far as like training out, right? You have acquired structures in Norwood, Bridgeway. They still do acquired structures. They light them on fire. As you can speak to that, I usually do that too with another department. It gets very dangerous, very fast in those things. Everybody's going away from that. In fact, you two are the only two I know in Colorado still doing this right now. And then you have training facilities that we have to travel to right now. So that's the 4 different types that you have available to us right now. And with the training tower, that actually gets you the reps that you can actually move things around and make them, you know, like a house. And as a captain on the department, I'm probably not gonna like fire a lot either, because I'd rather throw a bunch of like a hoarder's house in there and get my guys lost in there, do a lot of surge and, you know, moving those through that place, banging ladders against the side, you know, without crushing this
go look at the station, that's pain. That hangs all the ladders up against it, chip away all the paint, siding, and all three of our stations, sorry, chief. But, you know, we're trying to be creative right now to be able to simulate, we're using our own firehouses that are kind of beaten up pretty good to do that. So those are the 4 options that we have. Great, let's do it.
Yeah, and just to show you guys, like, this is a smoke machine that I put in a U-Haul a couple months ago. And this is Placerville training, the 2 videos on the left and the center. And so that's what Class B uses for smoke. It quickly dissipates, as well as what you'll see here on the airport training. But this is, you know, Class A combustibles. And Davis Spawns will quickly realize when you open a door and add oxygen what happens, which is just funny. But that's like about the size of what you put into a structure to get it hot enough so that room gets heated, so you get good smoke. You don't want to do too much because that's when you get in trouble. Because the only things that are combustible in these types of facilities is what we put in it. It's the fuel and us. And last thing I want to light on fire is one of my firefighters. And so you have to keep it like relatively low key. And then the airport is just another example of Class B. So you can quickly kind of see the smoke dissipates. It doesn't carry. That's not something you're going to see throughout the Placerville Valley. So
Commissioner Gleason and then Jenny.
Yeah, thank you. This is a lot to digest.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is important for the community here to contemplate is this development would certainly permanently close the temporary closure right now of Front Street. We just want to make sure that's very clear to the community when you're taking this into consideration. That was covered, but yeah, just based on all the feedback we hear about that temporary closure and some concerns around that, I just wanted to make that crystal clear to the community, and please share that with community members. That would be a component of this development.
Thank you for that clarification. Jenny.
I was just gonna add the closure is specifically related to the redevelopment, like the closure is not necessarily related to the training tower. It's just simply a better option for the trucks that need to move out. And we are coordinating with CDOT, but CDOT has provisions for that direct access for the fire trucks right off of 145. This also prevents them from down Front Street, West Bay cars. I know there's also concerns from CDOT about how many access there are in Placerville. This could be a good way to say, hey, CDOT, we're already gonna close this one. We don't need to close other ones. And we have transportation engineers on our staff working really hard to make this work as best as possible. But any feedback people have about how it would work better is certainly appreciated.
Hearing your thoughts on speed, like having a fire department access and a light right there was one thing that I thought could slow down people as they kind of whip around that corner. That where we have our entrance and exit for the responding apparatus is basically on that blind corner. So it cuts that in half, which is a lot safer for us going into traffic, honestly, when we're responding to and from calls. And so hopefully you would see also a reduction in that speed. Was just something that after hearing you all today, is something I thought about.
Chief Bachroff.
Yeah, just one more thing I want to say. Think of this as a return on your investment. You guys pay a lot in taxes. My district pays a lot in taxes. Think about buying a new car. When you sit in your garage for 5 years and you decide, oh, I'm going to take it out for a spin. Probably not going to work very well. It's the same thing with firefighters. I used to be a training officer back in the Chicago area. I was training officer for years. We trained every shift. These guys, if we give them an opportunity to train more, so when that emergency happens, it's muscle memory. They know exactly what to do. There's no hesitation. And as far as the mutual aid agreement that we have with Telluride, we work very well with Telluride right now, but we'll work even better if we can train more together. So think of it as a good return on your investment, because they're not asking for any more money.
Thank you, Chief. Jenny.
Fires are put out by water, and water is an issue down here. We're all on wells. And so I'm wondering what you guys have in your training process as far as, you're wanting to have more people down here living. They're gonna be needing water. And your trainings are gonna need more water. So I'm just wondering what your plan is for, the water situation down here.
Yeah, for training, for live fire training specifically, it's actually really efficient with water use when we're doing live fire. And so there's a formula that I come up with based on how much combustible I'm using, and it's times 150 gallons per minute, basically, is what I have to have available. At that station alone, what we have 9,000 gallons sitting in the station between the apparatus about. And so really having all of our tenders down here allows me to have that water for training. So it's a little bit easier to get, and then we can go and draft out and fill those tenders back up so they're ready for response. But the training facility doesn't use, honestly, a ton of water. As far as the station itself, I don't think it seemed like our leach field was good for increasing the amount of people.
To increase, or we're not changing anything.
Yeah, we won't change the water.
Yeah, so I actually the water board is changing in a substantial way.
And we did 8 hours of live fire training in Montrose and used less than 200 gallons of water.
Yeah, so we're in a drought.
No, I believe me.
And honestly, I want to be respectful of that. I think it's kind of ignorant to go and train live fire when we have fire restrictions, water restrictions. And so that's something that, like, I promise you, we will 100% be conscious about. It's also not smart for me to tax my firefighters with training when we are expected to go out on fires. Like, I want them to be good. I want them to be fresh. And so, like, part of my job is strategically coming up with a schedule to where they're ready to go and do the job when our danger is high. And so I also don't want to use water when we don't want to wash trucks. We're trying to minimize our use when water restrictions are in everyone's eyes. Yeah.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gleason.
Has there been any contemplation design around like recycling gray water for the training facility?
Yeah.
Just in the name of water conservation.
I think it goes back to Axel's point, right? Like, or who said tanks? So back to Axel's point, right? Like, I think it depends on design and groundwater. Can we put tanks underground? I would certainly consider that, because then it would help us with our pump testing. Like, there's dual use, right? And so I think when we get, when we look at our soils testing and what design capacities that water table will allow us to do design wise. And if you look at some of the buildings in Telluride along the river, and they're building boats to hold their buildings, right? I don't know if that's design savvy for us down here, but it's a question well asked.
We've considered retention ponds. I know that's something we've been discussing. So, and honestly, it's just space is extremely limited, and the CDOT right away is huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're very limited with that property.
For tanks, I was, in my mind, was above ground. Like you see around California, so you have a place to send your pumpers to go, for your tankers to come with the water. What about
tankers here have wings, but
tenders. What about Doris's property? Who owns that? Is that county?
We've reached out, and I
Yeah.
get nothing but sendbacks. So I don't know where they're at. Based off of the assessor information, so. I guess
I think the above ground tanks also, we're shifting with the space, to be able to move the pools through this small space, so having above ground water storage might impact that.
I think the answer to Ginny's original question was that water is available, and that the folks that will be using the water are going to be very cognizant of when and how much they use. And if it's possible to recycle through some gray water system, they'll certainly consider it, but they're not far enough along in the plans to get that. Yes, sir.
Just on, I do a lot of training, and I gotta say that imaginary training and live fire training, I think about the same amount of water.
Okay.
But we're still spraying hoses that, you have to be able to run hoses charged, hit points.
Understood.
And all that, I mean, it's only a campfire.
Yeah.
Okay, we're starting to slow down on questions. It is 6:30. We do have opportunity for continued conversation about this issue, but I'm really grateful that we had a chance to at least broach the topic and get our initial concerns addressed. I think that some of the big ones I heard were air quality, water availability, traffic impacts, and knowing your timeline was helpful. Knowing that there will be no money changing hands, so to speak, that you've got the money in place, and that these are still two separate questions in my mind. And I think will continue to be addressed as two separate questions throughout the county process if we get that far. What I propose now is that we allow these folks to get back to their families or their fire stations. If there are more questions and you have time, perhaps we could take it outside and kind of have a back and forth, just neighbor to neighbor. And open up the floor to any other questions, county related. I'm trying to wrap up the fire part because it is getting late, but I don't want to cut the meeting short. If anybody has any specific county questions that they would like to address. Yes, Khalida.
Can you touch on the survey process and the call to action?
Yes, I'm gonna defer to Mike, who's already got a survey in mind that he's been.
And if I might, Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
just, don't hesitate if you have any specific questions to call me direct on my cell phone. I'm glad to answer, 970-729-2411. It's also listed on our website, or don't hesitate to stop by Station 1, the fire station in town of Telluride. Ring the bell and glad to have a chat.
You can also submit comments on our website, questions too, as another form of getting it, but don't forget that all this information that you saw tonight is on the website for you to really look into. And then those are 3 dates where we hope to see you guys in the future. For 2
And
days.
I will just underscore that Chief was absolutely sincere when he said, call him on his cell, he picks up. So if you, as far as the survey question, before we fully break up, Mike, do you want to address that briefly?
I think I would just be copying this presentation, the contacts for the fire department to do a geolocated survey so we could see where responses were coming from, whether it was Placerville proper or other areas down valley all the way to Norwood. And we'd start by directly emailing it to everybody who we have in the Placerville email list, and then putting it on the county website and promoting it via social media as well.
Jenny, last question.
I have a question about the curb up.
Yes.
I'm wondering if the county is considering doing any fire mitigation around the Placerville area on county land. Just because we are in a very vulnerable spot. Just wondering if that's on your radar.
That's a good question.
We've done it on so that's in my wheelhouse right now, so if that's something that you guys have considered or.
Thank you. I don't think that we've had formal discussions, but I know that we are all hyper aware that this summer is going to be perhaps a wildfire season. I know that we can take a look at the county properties and see what the risk is, what we can do easily, what would cost too much, and what we can find to do quickly. So thank you for planting that seed. Okay. Any other county specific questions not related directly to fire stations? Yes, ma'am.
What is the county's responsibility Woods Lake? I have been told that you must have a fishing license to enter Woods Lake. And it's told whether or not you're going to fish. You're hiking, you're picnicking.
I believe you are correct. It is a CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, owned property. And in order for them to raise funds to maintain the campgrounds, maintain the horse corrals, maintain parking and the access, the CPW, the state organization, has decided that they will use fishing license owners to fund Woods Lake. That's a change that happened some years ago, and it's been slowly being enforced. And I don't have any control over that decision, but you're right, and the rumors you heard are true.
I can give you a little bit more because I spoke with the law enforcement agent for CPW out at Woods Lake last summer. He was only enforcing people that were out on the water. I'm not saying that he may not enforce elsewhere, but I think he has enough. It's only one person who shows up sporadically and And he was most interested to find out who the kayakers, paddleboarders, and all those folks, if they had fishing license or the wildlife stamp, if they weren't fishing, you can buy that stamp through Parks and Wildlife that allows you access there. When I questioned, hey, I got the state parks pass on my vehicle registration, they clarified that doesn't count. So I've since not renewed that, but because I don't go to other Colorado state parks, but I did buy a fishing license so that I could be out on the water at West Lake. I've not seen him patrol any of the hiking areas or picnic areas. And you can fill out the form and pay money there electronically. Ryan?
I think you can also get it right here at the.
Right here on the- I've got my fishing line.
Yeah.
Out there, I used to get, I know, we call it.
Yeah.
Sounds like we might be able to do it right here locally.
Right,
Yeah.
but it'd be an addition, separate from the fishing license.
No,
You don't, if you have a fishing license, you don't need any other license.
Right, but I have a company coming in.
Then you can get the extra tags on there for that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Steve King, it says his hand up.
Oh, good. Hi, Steve. We're gonna ask you to unmute.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Great. A question about that sewer plant plan for the bottom of Keystone. Wondering how the Mountain Village was able to be built without plans for their own needs. Wondering why the county has to step in and make that happen. Looks like an opportunity to control growth. Wondering who paid for the land. Also wondering about the quality of the water coming out of that for our well systems downstream.
Okay, I'm gonna defer to Jared Biggs, who is our resident expert on wastewater treatment, and he'll try to take all those questions in some order. Here we go.
Steve, that process is still in development. The land was purchased by the town of Mountain Village. And so they are the ones that paid. There's going to need to be a CDPHE permit for their discharge from that location. There is an existing permit for the discharge from the location that is across from Lawson Hill. So largely all of that waste stream, or the lumpy water, as I have previously called it, it's already going into the river. Above that location, this would change the location, and largely a lot of the amendments they are making to the treatment process in their design right now are to increase control of nutrients and to make higher water quality standards.
Steve, that's one of the reasons they're building or trying to build this plant, is because they need to achieve higher water quality standards.
Right.
And also, I think you might have asked, why does the county have to build that? Just so you know, there are no county funds involved with that at all. The Mountain Village purchased the land, and the intention is to set up a sewer authority that will be a joint venture, or whatever you call it, between the two towns, Telluride and Mountain Village. We do have an MOU with the two towns that, as much as an MOU can, promises that they will provide services to residents and properties in the unincorporated San Miguel County, including accepting septage. But that is just an agreement to provide the services. We're not actually participating in the construction or development of that plant. We will approve it or deny it, however, because it's within unincorporated San Miguel County.
And I'll also add, we made a very strong stance around rates for unincorporated county residents. And we gained as much ground as we could there to try to advocate for reasonable rates for residents in the unincorporated county that might be served by a new wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah, we couldn't get any guarantees on like multiplying factors or anything, but they did agree that they would, and I think they have to anyway, always do a rate study to understand the actual cost versus what they can charge. And that was very important to the commissioners. And again, that guaranteed that they will build the plant large enough to accept septage so that you all with OWTS systems don't have to like haul it out to Olathe or Moab or all the other ridiculous places that is going these days. So.
And the cost incurred with hauling it so much further.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Steve. Anything else on your mind?
I do have one other thing quickly, if I may, on that, those changes you guys made to the Ilium industrial park, the light industrial park, to allow non-industrial uses there. I'm wondering what the plan is to accommodate the businesses that are light industrial that may now get displaced. You know, snow removal companies, landscapers, they have equipment, they have trucks. You know, what's the plan to accommodate their needs as they may get squeezed out?
Question, Steve, and I don't think that any of us have a fully formed answer. We wrestled with that very question when we were making that decision and realized that, at least I realized, I won't speak for my fellow board members, but this is Lance saying that over time, land uses change, and that while it would be great if we had unlimited or more area to maintain many uses, that we unfortunately are in a really tight valley with already zoning and structures and needs, and that I'm not able to create more property to continue the existing uses and also the needs for future uses. So I've ended up in an uncomfortable laissez-faire position where I don't have the answer, but I am trusting that somehow the market will provide, and if those services that you mentioned remain integral, that they will figure out a way to remain. And if they find themselves forced out, as the words you used, and that's a good one, then they will have to find another place as close as they can and adjust their fees and their business structures in order to accommodate this kind of new reality. I'm not entirely comfortable with that answer, but I also understand that there is an element of the community's changing, the needs are changing, and the closer you are to the ski hill, the resort, the epicenter, that it makes sense to use land proximal to that as it is needed as the community evolves. I'm sorry, I wasn't as concerned it had been.
I hear you with all that, but I think the key there was that there is limited land and there is no alternative for the light industrial, whereas the uses that are now going to go in there are already being provided at Lawson Hill and in the town. So, you know, it just didn't seem to me like a smart approach. I apologize for using that term, but I think that's the way I see it.
That's one of the questions that's kept me up at night. I appreciate you reminding me of the wrestling match that I had. And don't know if it was smart or not, but definitely we will find out, and you'll be able to point your finger at me and say, bad call, buddy.
We all need snow removal, right? We're in the mountains. Hopefully we'll need snow removal and, you know, and maybe landscaping too. Those are just two good examples. And, you know, we need those just as much as we need coffee shops.
True that. Thank you, Steve. Any other questions from the Zoom or from the room? If not, Matt Steen.
I was hoping just to like bring back up an old topic of water and sewer and down valley.
Yeah.
And it kind of it coattails this like need for water with fire department, or even bringing your insurance down. You know, if there are fire hydrants in these areas, that would surely do that. Yeah, it's a topic that I've talked to residents in Down Valley. They say that it's been on the table for 30 or 40 years. So I'm kicking the ball.
Matt, thank you for bringing that up, and we did intend to address that today. And I should look back because Fisher Hazen sent us a note asking about that. And that is something that will be addressed during the Down Valley Master Plan. That will be a big part of it, is trying to understand whether we can afford a system, like, and what it would look like, and all that kind of thing. And I think we've told the community before that if we did end up, you know, just you all together with the planning team decide that that's the way to go, it would be a call, we'd have to set up a district to fund that. So that would be part of the considerations.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, county has property up on this hill. You drill a well and put a tank up there.
I think that,
I'm just planting seeds here.
okay,
And you have a future water treatment plant that you could put infrastructure and pump up and.
I think that's,
into that.
we've discussed that as during the conversations about the concept of the wastewater treatment plant, and that is cost prohibitive, pumping up Valley, all those miles. It would never happen.
Understand.
Yeah,
Versus building another water treatment plant.
yeah.
I think Anne's first half of her answer was
Yeah.
the most useful, which is come 2027, we're gonna have this big unveiling of a community effort to try to dive into this thing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you kind of reminding us and also planting the seed, and I hope you hear that we do actually have a date certain, plan to dive into it, and we'll look at all the options that you just presented and probably find 15 more. And then we'll put price tags on them, and then we'll all shake our heads and go, whoa,
Great.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Wait until
So we meant to mention it during the Down Valley Master Plan, and thank you for reminding us.
That got a little rushed, that portion of the movie. But yeah, I think it'll be a touchstone as to where the community is at, right, at this point in history with the costs incurred and the logistics and yeah. We're getting up to date on where everyone is at with the potential of wastewater and more water development here as limited as it is.
We will see you at those meetings.
I'll be there.
Any other county-based questions, folks? I'm not seeing any hands up. I'm gonna thank you all for staying till the end,
Yeah.
and thank you for coming and joining.
Oh,
us.
Jeannie, thank you. Meet the ladies, I'm gonna